Hey, everybody. It is Tina Desiree Berg here reporting for Status Coup. Normally, I'm here on a Friday doing Right Wing Insanity Report. Made some changes, though. I actually was able to watch the hearing that we were discussing on part one of this episode on the motion to disqualify Summer Stephan. So I'll have some updates on that. The hearing was on Friday. But welcome to part two. If you haven't watched part one, I highly recommend you go back and watch part one. We're basically discussing a case, two cases that are happening down in San Diego. The first case involves 11 defendants that the DA down in San Diego had deemed to be Antifa. She's arguing that Antifa is a formal organization and that these folks are part of that organization, conspired to commit crimes and felony riot, et cetera, that day. But the problem is that she's only prosecuting those folks, and she's completely ignoring the equal or, in some cases, I think, worse crimes committed by the Trump supporters that were there that day. Mind you, this was 3 days past the Capitol insurrection, so the tensions were high that day. So last week we spoke with Curtis Briggs, who is one of the defense attorneys, and his client, Jeremy White, who is one of the defendants. And then I also spoke with Brian Peace. Brian Peace is running a lawsuit against the city right now for the same exact protests. He's arguing that there was bias that day with the police department. They only called an unlawful assembly, and they only dispersed the counter-protesters, or what he's referred to as the pro-democracy side, allowing the Trump folks to run rampant through the city. Captain Matt Novak in his deposition has basically said that what he's calling the Patriot side was perfectly cooperative with the police that day. We now know that's not true from viewing hours of body cam footage, including statements from some officers saying that the Proud Boys had hijacked the protest and were not cooperative with police, weren't down with the program, et cetera. So this week, what we're going to be doing is taking a deeper look at the motion. I did speak with multiple activists that were present there that day for the protest in San Diego, and two others that have had a long history down there doing activism that have had issues with both the DA's office and the police, just to give this entire situation some background. But first, I wanted to give my thoughts on what happened with the hearing on Friday. So Curtis did lose the motion, which I think was to be expected. It's a very, very high bar to get a DA's office disqualified, even if there is ample evidence to suggest that maybe there is bias. It's just not something that happens in our criminal justice system. So that's not a surprise. But I do want to mention that he did warn about jury selection. He tried to compel the DA's office and the defense attorneys to reach some sort of plea agreements. I doubt that will happen because I don't see why the defense attorneys would agree to that. As far as I'm concerned, there's enough evidence there, and I think maybe the judge and even the DA's office sees that now, that there's enough evidence there to actually hang a jury. The evidence is quite compelling. And I think this is also the first time in this case where you have seen any defense attorney actually bring forth a reasonable defense, or the idea that there is a reasonable defense for these defendants. Thus far, we've had several of them that have pled out. Some of them have had, public defense. Not to say that they weren't good attorneys, but when you work in the public defender's office, you're completely overloaded. And this particular case, because of its political bias and because of its political motivation, requires hours and hours of attorney time in order to actually have a defense. So that's part of the deal, and I think they know that. So let's dive into more of this. So first off, I wanted to play an interview that I did with Lauren Gaugh. You will remember last week we discussed that there was an episode where a Trump supporter pushed over an activist that was riding with sidewalk chalk in front of the police line, and then the guy walked right past the police line. Brian Peace, the attorney for the case against the city, basically said that they welcomed him with open arms. But let's play that interview now. Speaking with Lauren Gaugh, who is one of the protesters that was present that day on January 6th at the beach, and is also one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the city of San Diego and the police for their bias in policing that day. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the things that happened to you is there's video that you can see not only from the body cam footage that the officers were wearing, but also from some phone camera stuff recorded that day that some Trump supporter came over. You were riding in the street with chalk and he pushed you over to the ground, and then he makes his way back through the police line into the Trump side.
Against our nation. Have you no fucking awareness, dignity, or shame? Fuck you.
I don't want anyone to forget that these pigs have...
Not too close.
Keep walking, keep
It's
walking.
vandalism.
Keep walking.
Can you walk us through how that happened, all the details?
Sure. I was at the protest and there was several other protesters around me that were on the pro-democracy side. And there was a large police line up ahead of me. And I was crouched over writing a message in chalk on the street. And this is fairly common. I like to use chalk to get across my messages. I don't remember exactly what I was writing, but it was near the front, and I remember someone came over. It seemed like he might have been like even just like a weird passersby. I don't know if he was even there for the protest, but
Okay.
He came over and pushed me over, and I was crouched down, so I just toppled over. And then he kind of realized what he had done, and then just kind of rushed to go onto the pro-Trump side, and the police like welcomed him. They did not offer me assistance in any way or try and mediate it. They just kind of were like, go get over here and you'll be safe on this side.
You'll be safe on this side, right? So it almost looks from some of the body cam footage like he's kicking you, but I think it was just a shove with his hands.
I mean, it's possible he could have kicked me. I do not recall exactly what happened. I'd have to go off of what happened on the video. But yes, I mean, I was crouched down, and then I just remember kind of hitting the ground.
Yeah, and there was no reason for him to do this. That's just...
No, I had no interaction with him prior to this. And I do remember other people around me, it also happened so fast that they didn't really see him coming either.
Right. So what time did you get there at the protest that day? Did you get there in the afternoon, or were you there in the morning to witness some of the earlier events?
I don't recall the exact times that I was there, but I believe it was in the morning, and then stayed for several hours.
Okay. And walk us through some of the things you saw that day.
Well, there was a large pro-Trump side. And seeing as this was a few days after the insurrection, they were pretty amped up. And the pro-democracy side, we were just there to, fight for our country, not in an actual literal sense of fighting, but just to show that we were protesting, that we did not agree with their insurrection.
Right, which is what it was. And there were, by my count, at least 6 Capitol insurrectionists that were present there at the protest that day. So, reason to feel that way. Did you witness anybody getting pepper sprayed or anything of that nature?
Not that I recalled closely. To me, there was a lot going on. So it was just a really chaotic scene that day.
And do you feel as if the police were monitoring you folks way more closely, maybe not paying attention to what the Trump people were doing? One of the things that the city attorney is trying to claim is that the reason the police dispersed only your side of the protest wasn't because it was politically motivated, but rather that was where the violence was happening. And she's fully acknowledged that there were Trump people crossing over to your side of the protest, coming in through streets and back alleys and instigating confrontations and whatnot. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's definitely some bias, I would say, for sure. This was not the first protest I've gone to, and it's not the last. It's a fairly common occurrence that the cops and the Klan go hand in hand. So some police themselves could have been insurrectionists. They are definitely trying to to pretty much maybe keep them separate, but they were definitely heavily targeting our side.
Okay. What other things would you like to share that we're not discussing yet?
I'm not quite sure. I just hope that that DA Summer Steffens does not get away with this behavior, this unchecked power that she has and is abusing. It's not right.
Yeah, let's talk about Summer Steffen for a minute. So this is the separate case where the district attorney in San Diego is charging 9 individuals, maybe 12 now actually, with as being members of Antifa, that it's a conspiracy, that they showed up and they were the only side engaged in violence that day, that the Trump people were polite, cooperative, the Patriot side, as that's referred to in the grand jury indictment, which I think is biased language to begin with, but that sort of frames the conversation for folks. So she's claiming that there was no violence occurring at the hands of the Trump people.
I mean, I can't recall specifics, but in many protests that I've been at, the pro-Trump side is always very militant and violent. That is just their behavior. It is not. It's just not very welcoming. I mean, they're there for a fight.
They're there for a fight. Yeah, obviously the Proud Boys that showed up were there for the fight. 2 of them ended up in an alley beating up a man and a woman. This is well documented. We have video of this. And yet Summer Steffen has not charged any of those individuals with an assault, even though we know full well who 3 of them are. So, and in full disclosure, I did email her office and ask her for comment on that. She, multiple times, she has not responded multiple times. So not sure what her take is on that, but clearly she has not filed charges against these individuals. And that seems to be biased to anybody standing on the outside watching this. So it makes sense that you would feel that way. It was a very sort of, I would say, highly tense situation. It was 3 days after the insurrection had occurred. So temperatures were already running hot. So, it didn't take much to ignite, confrontations between the 2 sides. Obviously, they said people had seen what had happened at the Capitol 3 days earlier. Obviously, if you refer to as the pro-democracy side, that was very upsetting. These are folks that were trying to basically overturn the election or prevent the election from happening. And in fact, the original flyers actually said "stop the count," not "stop the steal." So that sort of tells me where their minds were. Stop the count. Let's not count the votes because they're not flattering to Trump. So, just in a broader sense, especially as a voter in San Diego, Summer Steffen was reelected to office. Is it because her ties to these individuals are not well documented, not well discussed? We've had a report or a motion now filed by one of the defense attorneys, basically showcasing Summer Steffen has taken money from folks that are very much extremists, groypers, Hitler videos by one of them, a whole host of things that I'll get into later in the report. But why aren't more San Diegans up in the air over this?
I wish I had a good answer for you. Myself, being activist, fairly active in the San Diego community for the past few years, I've seen there's a small community of people fighting for the.
Oh, you're back.
We're fighting for the rights of pretty much all of the oppressed, whether it is in an election or regarding to all other social issues like homelessness or affordable housing. Myself and my other comrades, we're out on the streets really trying to advocate for what's best for this community. And we find that a lot of San Diegans just are they're not aware or not politically engaged, and that is disheartening.
It is. And in fact, I know that there were some homeless individuals that had been messed with by the Trump people that day as well. Apparently, they're in Pacific Beach. There's an area where they congregate and stay. I did speak with Amy Zumadio, who is a homeless activist there, and she was telling me some stories about that. General disrespect for homeless folks from these guys. So do you think that added to the mix that day?
I can't say for sure, but I know the police. They generally have an attitude that is uh, very much rooted in white supremacy and not caring for the community. So I can imagine that they wouldn't have had care for any houseless individuals that day, and were really just about trying to maintain their power and control over this city.
So, some part of the rhetoric that's been floated by one of the attorneys is basically that because only one side of the protest was dispersed after an unlawful was declared, not everybody was dispersed, only the one side. Because of that, the individuals that did stay felt more emboldened, and they, as people were leaving the side that was dispersed, you had Trump folks follow them to their cars or start to mess with them in various smaller little individual confrontations that happened, including this one in the alley. By that sense, it seems to me that maybe the police endangered more individuals by not dispersing everybody all at once. If they had dispersed the entire protest on both sides, a lot of this violence might not have happened. Do you think that that's true?
Well, I don't doubt that the police put people in harm. They do not protect and serve. And actually, when a protest is over, whether it was this one on January 9th or any other protest, when people are leaving, it's actually the most dangerous time sometimes, because some people let their guard down and are just trying to walk safely back to their car. But that is a time where people can often be followed and attacked. And that is, it's very dangerous and unfortunate when that happens.
Yeah, and part of that too, I think, is I don't think all of the police involved that day were in agreement with this decision. You do see pushback from some officers, or hear pushback, I should say, on body cam footage, some of the aerial footage where you have dispatch and command communicating with officers over their walkie-talkies. Or whatever the communication devices are. So definitely there was some pushback from some officers that were basically saying, the Proud Boys have taken over this protest. They are not polite and cooperative. Some of them are belligerent and drunk. They're not cooperating. So you do, believe it or not, hear some of that going on. So it seems to me that the command that day had a certain idea in mind, and that idea was that Antifa is here. They're an organized criminal group. They're here to wreak havoc in our town. A lot of them are not even from San Diego. Some of the sort of, tropes that are floated out there, or were being floated out there at the time. Another one would be that Antifa did January 6th. It wasn't Trump people, right? So you have to keep in mind that at this frame of time, 2021, January 9th, this was the sort of narrative and the belief system that was sort of being floated around on the right. And I think that probably contributed to the situation. Any parting thoughts, Lauren, or anything we didn't talk about that you think is important to mention?
Well, I just like to, hold on, there's some noise overhead. But I'd like to thank you for taking the time to interview me, and really spread your interview and your knowledge with everyone. Appreciate it. All
right, thanks, Lauren. Okay, so that was Lauren Gaw that we spoke with. I wanted to mention that I had interviewed her before. I had done a bigger count now on the insurrectionists that were present that day. It's up to 9 in the interview. I said it was 6 or more, so I now it was 9, maybe more, I don't know. So I wanted to mention that. The next interview is a mom and daughter that were both there that day. This is Aaron and Susan. Speak with Aaron and Susan, who were both present there during the counter-protest on Pacific Beach, January 9th. Aaron is also a plaintiff in the lawsuit that Brian Peace is bringing against the city for their bias in policing. Aaron, in fact, let's talk about that right off the jump. You were in that violent dispersal video, and you get hit by a baton multiple times. During that, they were firing tear gas, less lethals, whatnot. Walk us through some of that.
Yeah, so it wasn't my first protest. Typically, me and my friends, we will, we call it holding the front. We will literally put our bodies in front of BIPOC people. So if there is anything, we get hit first. And, since it's a protest for their rights, this protest was, a counter protest for literal insurrectionists, Proud Boys. Sorry, I'm not good at interviewing.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
We were holding the front. They did a very quiet dispersal. I think even in some of Brian's discovery, one of the officers says, "Was that loud enough?"
Get up there. You're protecting them. Well, we are trying to. The actions of
I am Sergeant Simon Adams of the city, a police officer of the city of San Diego. I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly, and in the name of the people of the state of California, I command all of you to assemble north of this location to an immediate disperse. You may continue moving north.
Is it going out? Just get up there close.
Okay. I am Sergeant Simon Adams of the City of San Diego Police Department.
So
you can hear that in the body cam.
Yeah, so I was in the front, and it was unclear if there was a dispersal. I assumed that there was by when I saw the less lethal weapons pull up and the riot team, and then our side backing up. So we backed up. We kind of gave space for the part of the protest that was a little spicy. And then we noticed that nobody else was leaving. So again, I was unclear if there was an actual dispersal called or not. I was just kind of following the crowd, So when nobody else left, we kind of went back to the front of the line. And then typically when it gets a little bit spicy, PD will line up and they'll have their batons kind of across all of their chests, making a line. And they'll push back, typically our side of the protest. So I've been in that position multiple times. They do it pretty abruptly. They don't give any kind of warning. You're just there in the protest. And then all of a sudden they form, their line and they scream, "Move, move, 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 move." Right. I believe it's part of the people that are holding the front to not turn around and run and create a stampede. They're purposely trying to intimidate you so that you flee the scene. So we try to remain calm. I walk backwards and calmly push the line back. So that had happened a number of times, no problems. And then I think the second or third time they started to push back the line, I guess I didn't move fast enough for them. So the PD started advancing at me. The one in front of me put her baton in front of her chest and shoved me. Yeah. And then at which point I was on my back and I could see other PD from the front of the line rushing me. At that point, I just assumed I was going to get, arrested for not, moving back fast enough. So I just kind of expected to get, picked up by my arms and, detained or whatever. So I was kind of bracing to get picked up and detained. Yeah. And instead they just started beating me with their batons. So luckily we kind of have a rule, when we protest is when the riot squad comes out, we put our helmets on. We kind of say, if you're going to be protecting yourself, then we're going to protect ourselves too. They had already come out. So luckily I'd already had a helmet on, and I had a backpack full of, water, snacks, basic first aid stuff, change of clothes, just very basic stuff. So luckily I had that on, and then I had my helmet on. So I fell back, went into the fetal position once I realized they weren't going to detain me and they were just going to hit me and kick me. And then I wasn't really sure what was going on in the rest of the protest at that point. And it was just a few days after the insurrection when we were hearing about, people dying in stampedes. So I had no idea what was going on. So I started kicking for my life. I just thought if, the other side is rushing over, I don't know what PD is doing, but I want to, make big leg movements so I don't get
Stampeded.
For sure. Yeah. So then all of a sudden, the PD just kind of backed off me and they screamed at me to get up. And then I was still like a little confused. I still like thought I was going to get detained. I'm like, why did they do all that then just to let me go?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like I didn't understand what was happening. I also I didn't understand at the time that they had shoved me over. So I remember telling them like I tripped.
No, you were shoved over. Yeah. So it felt like, yeah. And sometimes when you're in those moments, you can't really tell what's going on.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm no like stranger to what, PD has done in protests, but I just wasn't expecting, I wasn't violent. I didn't have any weapons. I was using my words. So I just really didn't expect to be like violently shoved over by them. But yeah, it's very clear in the footage afterwards. And then you can also see people trying to come in to pick me up and they were, hitting them away. Yeah. So then they told me to get up. I was very angry. I just remember being like, if you're going to come at me, if I did something wrong, like then arrest me. Don't just beat me. Which, I'm happy I didn't get arrested. But yeah, it just didn't make sense. So I got up, screamed some obscenities at them. And then I went to calmly walk away. And then I just started hearing pop, 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 pop. And I got hit in the back of my arm with what was later to be found pepper balls. I had like perfect little circular, indentations with powder in them. So once I got hit, it hurts. So then I just had a short distance to run around the corner. And that's when I reunited with, at this point, my mom, she didn't come in to the street for like the spicy part of the protest. She was on the boardwalk, just kind of observing from a distance.
Well, I was behind both lines, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So then I called her and I was like, I just got beat up by PD and shot with pepper balls. Like, I'm getting out of here. Like, where are you so we can meet up? She met up. So it was me and her and Mandy. Mandy at this point had parked in like the CVS parking lot, which now is like engulfed by
Trump people,
which was not like that when she parked there.
Right.
So we walked her there for safety, obviously. We live just in the area. So we walked there, we walked back home. So we walked her to her car and we had to like go under the police ropes because all the Trumper area was all roped off.
Right.
Not roped off, but yellow tape.
Yellow taped, yeah.
Yeah. So they yelled at us about being there. We said, we're getting her car out, like, leave us alone. We got her in the car. We started walking back, and then a gentleman with like a very tall gentleman, and we're very short, with this giant "Don't Tread on Me" flag, started following us and screaming at us. And meanwhile, like, we're in our neighborhood. So we're just trying to get home at this point. Like, my elbow is bleeding. Like, I'm still in shock about what happened. So yeah, then this, unhinged, "Don't tread on me" guy starts following us and screaming. And then PD, so that I think I actually yelled at PD to like, we're trying to get home and this guy is yelling and screaming at us. Are you gonna do anything about it? And instead of like telling the gentleman to like go away or escorting him away, he basically yelled at us and told us to get out of there. And again, this is our neighborhood where, I raised my kid.
That's a little scary. How far did he follow you folks out of the protest area?
Not far. It was maybe half a block.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Half a block too far. Susan, Mom, talk to me a little bit about what you observed from the distance then.
Yeah, my perspective is a little bit different. I'm old, and I've never been a violent protest. My history of protest goes back to Vietnam War times when I was a kid, and then like marriage equality in Connecticut, teacher contract rights during my career. and then like a jump in New York Occupy and some New York anti-stop and frisk things, which were a more of a police presence that I was used to, but still very peaceful. This was something, I hear the things from Aaron, of course, but after January 6th, and by the way, I'm also a plaintiff in another case that Brian has, so he has my statement if you ever wanted to. I came home and I wrote down notes because I thought I gotta get this while it's fresh in my mind.
Smart.
And so I was kind of, not on the front line. And I had a BLM t-shirt on, but I also had another shirt. So I covered up. So I had no kind of identifying, anything I was wearing was not identifiable in any way. And I went actually all around, like behind the lines of the insurrectionists, I'm going to call them. So I was all around, and this is my neighborhood. I go to the beach every single day, so I know every bit of those few blocks. And I was shocked at the bias and what I saw. Fortunately, I didn't see Aaron get, beat. That was, afterwards. But I couldn't believe how the PD was just facing the counter-protest side. They were buddy-buddy with the insurrectionist side. There was, it was just so biased. It was shocking. It was shocking. And then, I didn't, I wasn't on the front line, but I was around, and I certainly could see the bias. When Erin called me and we met up, and what she said was, I concur. We were walking Mandy, and and they started, yelling at us, and we yelled back. We're just walking her to the car, and I do remember the guy with the "Don't tread on me," and I remember there was a female cop, and she started coming and like questioning, and I spoke up. I'm a pretty non-confrontational, pretty peaceful person. Right. And but I yelled and I said, we walked our friend to the car. This is our neighborhood, something to that effect. We're walking home now. And she backed off. If I hadn't witnessed it, it was shocking.
Yeah. So, this is reminding me of another segment that I saw in one of the body cam videos. So the body cam comes on and it's a bunch of officers in a car that are pulling into the CVS parking lot. They get out of the car and they ask the sergeant, which way are we going to face when we enter the intersection? And he says, the sergeant replies, oh, absolutely, you're going to face the counter protesters, which I thought was very telling. I'm like, yeah, because the Trump people never act crazy. It's just wild that this is just the way that they're programmed to believe. What are some other things that you witnessed that day that you think are important?
I'm trying to remember. Good thing I wrote notes.
Yeah, no, notes are good. Like, for example, one of the things I was curious about was there was a kid that had a minor that had a BB gun who apparently had been shooting the BB gun at counter protesters. I do know that he was arrested. There were arrest documents. Obviously, they redacted his name because he's a minor. And there's also some of the body cam footage, you see the arrest happen. But it's really not clear for me that there's any other video or details of what happened. So I'd be curious if you knew anything about that.
I saw kids being kids. I think maybe a couple on bikes, bikes, skateboards. And I got the same impression that they were just there for the, hey, something interesting happening, But I didn't see anything. I certainly didn't see anything violent on the counter-protester side doing anything.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Most of it, my understanding is most of the violent confrontations occurred outside of the protest area, alleys, side streets, whatever. I mean, you had, these, and the city attorney admits this, right? Richardson talks about in her declaration how or she actually uses this for justification for why only your side of the protest was told to go home, was that was where all the violence was happening, and it wasn't politically motivated. It was happening because that's where the fights were. Trump people were coming around through alleys and streets. So, in a lot of the footage I've seen, that is the case. Back down at the boardwalk, alley, side street, and they were. But my thing is this: the problem is that the DA is being 100% biased and not being honest if she's saying it's not a mutual fray. I don't think anybody is denying that counter protesters did use pepper spray that day, did get into fights with Trump people. That is absolutely all true. But my issue and many other individuals' issues is that she's just saying it was only one side being violent, and that's absolutely not the case. Not even close to being the case. So it's interesting because the two lawsuits, your lawsuit that Brian Peace is the attorney for, and the DA's criminal defense attorneys and her case that she's bringing against these defendants for their actions, sort of conflict in some ways, because in order for Summer Stephan to make the case, she has to sell this idea that it wasn't a mutual fray, that it was only Antifa being violent. And, the Richardson, who's the city attorney defending Brian Peace's case, she can't actually say that, because the minute she does that, she's lost her case where, okay, we're being biased now because we only dispersed the counter protest side and not the Trump people, right? You see what I'm saying? It's kind of a conflict, a tension, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Mandy had a body cam on her the whole time, and we were, next to each other, 95% of the time. And we saw on her body cam footage afterwards that man, who had a, 10-inch blade in his pocket and an American flag, mask on or whatever.
That's Ryan Luke.
Yeah, he was right behind us. And, I didn't even notice that at the time, which is bad on my end. But that person was running around with an open dagger on his leg. I saw, somebody on our side that was chalking with their back to, the Trumpers get shoved over, and the police didn't do anything until it seemed like there was going to be a fight that broke out. They repeatedly would, if people on the anti-Trump side went on to the Trump side, they would get kicked out immediately. Meanwhile, people on the Trump side were coming over, onto our side regularly. There was just zero part of it that was fair, even right down to just the optics of, they had staggered one line of like local PD facing them, and then facing us, it was like 3 levels of.
That's what I noticed. That's what, right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was like, why are they all, why is it so uneven? Why are they facing the counter protesters ready for, they were, very aggressive stance, with the, the baton, the batons across, very, very threatening. And why isn't it even? It was entirely biased and shockingly so to my.
There's even some body cam footage where you see one of the Trump supporters on the other side. You see him motioning at one of the counter protesters and basically saying, "You and me" in the alley, like "you and me," like, which is, to me, it comes across as he wants to go fight this guy in the alley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if I've seen that same video, it's the one where he's literally a few feet behind PD and PD's not intervening. And even there was a few times when the Trump side would be aggressive to us right in front of the police, and we'd say, "Are you going to do anything?" And they literally would say, "No, we're not here to enforce anything right now." Or that might not have been the word they used, but they basically said that they weren't gonna, pick anybody up. They were just gonna let things play out. And if it got, too bad, then they would disperse it.
Interesting.
Then they only dispersed one side. And I believe the PD, if I'm getting it correct, the PD that was in charge that day in his deposition stated that he only dispersed the anti-Trump side, which that right there is that's our whole lawsuit.
Right.
Yeah. You can't choose.
They're not consistent in their responses. So, no group is monolithic. I often tell people this, and that includes the police department. So there is but the thing is command is in control. So these officers are going to do what command tells them to do, even if they give some pushback to it. They'll be like, okay, that's what we're doing. So which is why this aerial footage is so very interesting to watch from start to finish, because you do hear all of that going on. Were you present when Chad Alvarez, who is the guy that walked in front of the police line and threw the smoke grenade at the counter protesters and then walked back? He walks right in front of the captain, in fact. Were you present for that?
I've seen the footage, and I know I must have been present. I don't remember seeing that necessarily. Yeah, there was like, there was a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, at one point, I got, it was windy. I got like mace in my face. I don't know where it came from. So yeah, I know from looking at the image and the timestamp that I must have been there, but I don't remember seeing that.
Right. I mean, the mace or the red pepper spray could have come from a million other places too. So lots of people were spraying it that day on both sides.
Yeah.
So that is easy to believe. What other things do you think are important that we haven't discussed yet that you want to talk about? If there's anything, doesn't have to be.
I just like I think obviously nobody wants, literal neo-Nazis, doing the Heil Hitler salute down their neighborhood.
Which we saw. One of them, there is a passerby video of a Trump guy doing a Roman salute as he's marching through town.
Yeah. So I think, nobody wants to see that ever. We have family heritage that's, Jewish. So it's, a personal attack on our family or heritage. And then it was just double down that it was, in our neighborhood where, we raised my kid and her grandkid. And then, on top of all that, then PD was like yelling at us to go home and like, taking it out physically on me. And then when I did get up and peacefully walk away, they shoot me in the back with pepper balls. It was just, none of it was called for. And then it was just like, it was like salt on the wound to have it be in your own neighborhood and then have, these people with "to serve and protect" written on their car who literally closed the boardwalk down and kicked off locals so that Proud Boys could walk.
Could march. Yeah.
Yeah. Could literally Heil Hitler salute down the boardwalk. And then it ended up exactly what we were there to stop. They caused havoc on the boardwalk. They got drunk. They took over bars. They started fights. This is exactly why we didn't want them in our neighborhood, and exactly why we tried to show up and stop it from happening.
Indeed. And in fact, that is exactly what happened. You see this in the aerial footage of the Able copter where there is a conversation between some officers on the ground with command where they're basically saying, should we shut down, should we tell these guys to go home or do we have to shut down the boardwalk? The Trump people, they don't call them Trump people, but the Trump people are now arguing with civilians. Command basically says, no, let them walk. I just need to know whether or not we need to get in between them and counter protesters. So again, it was with the counter protesters, which the counter protesters had been dispersed. There weren't any at this point. Mm-hmm. Then you see some more, 10 minutes later, you see them literally just going over the edges of the Shore Club, jumping onto the patio, arguing, I'm assuming arguing with folks that were sitting there just having a beer or lunch, having their Sunday fun day, whatnot. This was crazy to me. It didn't make any sense. Like if you're going to do an unlawful order, make everybody go home. And then there's no reason for any of this to happen.
Right. Yeah. None of it would have progressed. They had already made a pretty heavy stance that they were there. PD was there against us. They fired all the less lethal weapons at us.
Only, that's true.
Until we all left. And then they let what exactly what we were trying to not have happen. And then continue to watch it from the sky and still not stop it, which is just unacceptable. I mean, we this is what our taxes pay for. And it's unacceptable. You know, every year they defund the libraries and they give them extra money. If they're going to use this extra money to get helicopters, then, you know, get the bad guys.
That's what I found very offensive, that the militarization of PD. And as Aaron said, it's personal. This is our neighborhood. This is my beach that I, go to every day. This is where, her daughter, my granddaughter, we live here. This is our neighborhood. So it's very personal. And then to see, from a taxpayer point of view, really, this is my tax money funding PD that's obviously biased.
Right. No, I feel you. Thank you, Aaron and Susan, for talking with us. Appreciate your time. What a crazy day.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to get all of our stories, because I feel like this definitely got our side of it got brushed under the rug, and the DA kind of made it all about this fake conspiracy, and I'm like,
and twisted tea cans, which is kind of hilarious to me.
That was an interesting bit.
No, I know. Well, it was so funny because her expert witness and her were talking about like the twisted tea meme as being something that's associated with Antifa, and it's like, did you miss that there were oath keepers at the Capitol on January 6th carrying cans of twisted tea?
Right.
It's a meme. It's on the left, it's an anti-racist meme. On the right, it's I'm a racist. Screw these guys meme. So I mean, it's just a culture war thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just want, I appreciate you trying to get it out from, a different perspective than just the law side of things.
You got me in a duo there, two Tinas. I also spoke with Erin a little bit more and separately, since she is a plaintiff in the Bryan Peace case. But before I play that, I do want to point something out. The tension that should be clear to exist now, in case it's not, let me explain it. So the district attorney in her case, where she's making criminal charges against Antifa only, in her case, she's claiming that there was absolutely no mutual fray and that it was only anti-fascists that committed violence that day, and that is based on the clear evidence of the video evidence. I don't know how she can make this case. It's crazy to me, because there's plenty of video evidence that shows that that's not true. The city attorney who is defending this case that Bryan Peace is bringing against the San Diego Police Department and the city for their bias that day. In this case, the city attorney has admitted that there were mutual frays and that there was confrontations happening. What she is claiming is that the decision to only disperse the one side wasn't motivated by politics, ergo it's not biased. It wasn't motivated by politics, but it was the side where all the violence was occurring. The violence was occurring over there because the Trump people were coming around the backsides, the alleys, and confronting counter protesters. So the city attorney Richardson is admitting all of that. And in fact, one part of her declaration, she talks about a Trump person who comes by on a bike and just maces everybody on the counter protester side as one example. So there's clearly a tension between these two lawsuits that are winding their way through the courts as we speak. Now let's turn to the follow-up interview I did solely with Erin. So Erin, I wanted to talk with you separately from your mom about a couple of things pertinent to the court case itself. So Mandy apparently had a body camera that she was wearing for the entire protest. And there was some back and forth with the city attorney where she was claiming that she didn't get the footage from Mandy, even though Mandy had sent it early on, the whole file unedited. What is the whole story on that?
Yeah, so Mandy had a body cam footage on, or body cam on, that she turned on from the second she got there. I don't ever remember her turning it off. I'm assuming she turned it off at some point when she got to her car. So, it was on her the whole time. And we submitted that. I remember we submitted it because at first Mandy submitted it without the audio, just because we didn't know exactly what we had said on it. And it was hours of footage.
Hours and hours, yeah.
Hours of footage, yeah. So she sent it without audio, and then Brian asked for it to be sent with audio. So we did that. We sent it, to the attorney. And then, a few weeks later, or months later, whenever it was in court.
It was actually a couple months, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, they accused us of withholding it from them. And Brian had to remind them that they did actually send it and that maybe they didn't remember because they didn't find anything incriminating on it. I mean, it was the whole entire protest, and we were at the front of the line most of the time.
Right. So they were probably looking through the footage, looking to see, all of these Antifa folks attacking Trump people or something, and that just didn't exist. So
yeah. So
Okay.
much so that they must have forgot they had the whole footage anyway.
Which is pretty funny, actually. That's pretty funny. Also, one of the things she asked you, the city attorney asked you whether or not you knew you were actually hit with pepper balls. I think it's pretty, if you've ever been hit with them, as I have too, they hurt really bad. Believe me, when you've been hit by a pepper ball. I found this to be a strange question. Of course you knew, because you could feel it.
Yeah. She asked how I knew. I said, well, I felt the stinging. I saw the powder everywhere. And then after I was hit, I continued to hear pop, 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 pop. And then when I got home, I had circular, red holes and bleeding and powder all over me. So I put 2 and 2 together. And then she had asked me, first I think they originally denied that there was any pepper ball guns there, which if you've seen the footage,
you can see them in the footage. Yeah.
And I mean, they light us up with pepper balls, and it's just smoke and pepper balls everywhere. So I believe they denied, or they didn't maybe deny that they were there, but they wouldn't admit that they were there. And she had said that she had seen those little noise makers, like the little hand clappy things, like the plastic things. She said she had seen those in a video and asked if I mistake the pepper ball sound for those little kid noise makers. I said, absolutely not.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah. So that was a little insulting.
That's kind of a bizarre, that's just bizarre. I don't even know what to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that has been in a situation where you're being fired at with pepper balls, it's kind of unmistakable. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing the powder everywhere. You're also seeing all the PD with things aimed at you.
Exactly.
And they were directly right behind the PD. So.
Right. And, I don't know what the specific San Diego Police Department policy is on these, but most departments have a policy where they're supposed to shoot at the ground and then have it bounce off the ground at the folks that they're intending to have disperse. Oftentimes, though, you'll see local law officers not doing that and just firing them directly, which is quite dangerous. So there's been litigation in many towns over that. But you could see in the footage, you can clearly see that they were using less lethals. That's not up for debate. What other things did she say to you during that deposition that you thought were strange?
Many things. She was very set on, she wanted a specific number of times that I was hit by PD and with what objects and where I was hit. She kept asking me repeatedly. And I could tell that she was trying to get me to say a number. And then maybe if it goes to trial in a few years, I'd say a different number and they would catch me out and say, you're lying. Which if anybody's been attacked, you don't know. In a position counting, okay, that was 1 with that fist. That was 2 with this boot, So she was very, very angry with me that I couldn't give her a number. So at one point I even said, I don't know if you've ever been attacked, but you can't count. So she got mad at me and, said she'll be asking the questions.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was very clear. She was unwilling to admit any fault of PD, which
to be fair, that's her job.
Right. But I also feel like to be believable, it's a give and take. You know, like not every single person on the counter protester side acted accordingly that day. I support that side. I can admit that, you know.
Right.
Obviously,
no group again. No group is monolithic. Exactly.
Right, and I mean, she still has all the power of the city and the DA and the PD all behind her. It wouldn't have hurt her case to be like, well, maybe that instance was like not right, or maybe PD should have stepped up in this instance. And it was just clear that she was not going to, you know, like give them hold them accountable for anything. And then she would try to discredit me in the most ridiculous of ways, such as count how many times you were hit and with what objects you were hit with. Right.
That's crazy. Well, I will have to keep our eye on the case and see where it goes. Oftentimes with cases like this, they don't go to trial. They get, you know, settled out of court, whatnot, but we will keep our eye on this. Thanks again for telling us all about that. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
So if you're just joining the live stream, this is Tina Desiree Berg reporting for Status Coup News. We are doing part 2 of our expose on what's going on in San Diego. There was a motion to disqualify the DA, District Attorney's Office, Summer Stephan, from prosecuting a case which involves anti-fascists and Trump supporters getting into fights 3 days after the Capitol insurrection on January 9th in Pacific Beach. We are speaking with various activists that were present that day as they tell their stories. Next up, we're speaking with Mandy Ling, who is also a plaintiff in the Brian Peace lawsuit, and she's the one that had the body cam footage on the entire day. So let's play that interview next. Talking with Mandy Ling, who is one of the plaintiffs in the attorney's case that's being brought by Brian Peace that is going through the courts in conjunction at the same time with the DA's case against the defendants, the Antifa defendants. So Mandy, basically your case revolves around the police bias that was shown that day. The nuts and bolts of it are that the police called an unlawful assembly and only made the counter protesters leave. The Trump people were allowed to stay late into the evening, and they took over the boardwalk and they were hassling folks walking by, people sitting in restaurants. You can see all of this in the body cam footage. And they also capture some incidences where you had Trump supporters coming to the other side, the counter protester side of the street, and instigating fights, coming through the alleyway, instigating fights. Yet, the captain, Novak, is basically saying in the DA Summer Stevens case that the Trump side was perfectly polite, or the Patriot side, as he refers to it. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, since you were one of the protesters that day and are part of this case, what was the first inkling that you got that there was some biases going on with the police?
The first inkling was asking the police, if you're going to make one side leave, are you also going to make the other side leave? And we were told, oh yeah, yes, they're going to make the other side leave. And that never happened. There were more police facing us during the entire time than there ever were facing the Patriot side, whatever you want to call it. So there were some very concerning signs early on that this was not going to be a fairly policed event.
Right. So I wanted to ask you specifically about some of the things that you saw while you were there. One of the things that the city attorney has been forced to admit in her defense of the city and the police department is that the reason only one side was forced to leave after an unlawful assembly was called is because that's where all the violence was happening. But she admits that Trump people were coming onto that side and engaging in fights, right? Which is counter to what the DA is saying, because the DA is maintaining that it was not a mutual fray and it was just Antifa members that caused violence. So share with us some of the things that you saw happen with Trump people coming over to your side and creating havoc.
There's also images of Trump people throwing like smoke grenades, like the smoke canisters. There were Trump people that came over and pushed down people chalking. We were sprayed with mace when someone that rode their bike from one side came over to the other side, was spraying people with mace. There's actually pictures of someone standing, what now I realize was not far behind me, with a knife out. There is video of a young man getting beat up in an alleyway and spit on by the opposing side, Patriot side, Trump side. So there was definitely violence from that side. I don't know how they're reasonably saying that, because there's so much evidence proving that there was violence also from that side.
Right. So you came earlier in the morning. What time did you get at the protest?
We got there really early. It was so long ago, I can't even remember what time it started. But we got there, and it was, people were forming. And then, as it went on, of course, things deteriorated and continued to, to get kind of out of hand. And just, from the information that we have, our side was made to leave.
Right. Right. It's obvious to me that, well, let me backtrack and talk about earlier in the day. So the body cam footage released that is being used in your lawsuit against the city shows, starts at 2:00 and shows many things happening. The police do capture Chad Alvarez, who's the person you're referring to. He is a Peckerwood, which is a white supremacist organization, obtained through a FOIA request. You can see that he was actually under investigation by the Joint Terrorism Task Force that day, which is between the Sheriff's Department and the FBI. So for whatever actions, I don't know what that investigation was focused on. I've been trying to find out, but have not been able to uncover that. But point being is, this is a guy that's a known offender for other things and is a serious offender. So you see him walk in front of the police line and throw an illegal ammunition, a smoke grenade, at the counter protesters. The police don't stop him. They don't arrest him. And in fact, he walks by Captain Novak. You see Captain Novak in the body cam video. Right. And then later on in the day, partially captures, some of the body cam shows Ryan Luke coming out from the other side of the alley after he had been in his kerfuffle with the anti-fascists. He had been in the back with the knife out. I do have some of the video that was shot by District 34, my firm, that day, that's showing that they had a knife out. Yet all of this is being ignored by Summer Stevens, the DA. She's saying it's not a mutual fray. Why do you think that is, in your opinion, based on what you saw that day? I mean, it seems to me a really tough argument to make, given the preponderance of, video evidence that's out there.
Well, I mean, clearly, she's biased. I mean, anyone that has had any dealings with her or read anything about her, knows that, she is definitely not unbiased in these types of situations. I think maybe she's trying to make some sort of stand for herself. That, look, I got Antifa, or what I'm trying to prove, look, I got them in trouble. These are, dangerous, bad people. When, I mostly saw the dangerous, bad people on the other side. There were a couple instances of, like mutual arguments and situations, but the fact that that's completely being ignored, that there was also violence from that side, it's super concerning. And I think more people need to be paying attention to that, that, these people were there to cause harm, not only to counter protesters, but, there were many unhoused people who, live in that area and were harassed and harmed as well. So, I think that that she's not doing her job correctly, and that should be concerning to all of us, because I think we have 6 more years of her, or 5.
Right. Right. You're not wrong on that. The alley attack. So there's ample angles of this shot by 3 or 4 different people, including one of the Proud Boys that was involved in the attack. At the end of this video, he actually makes a commentary because his girlfriend was also hit. In fact, she was hit first, but he makes this comment at the end of the video where he says, "Oh, look, she peed her pants," talking about the girl that they had just viciously assaulted. And I know the DA has seen this footage, so it's really shocking to me that it's being ignored. Why aren't any of these folks being picked up? I don't know. What other things happened that day that aren't well discussed? I know that there was one thing in your deposition, I believe, that talks about some kids that had some eggs that they were throwing at the police.
I know that there had been a lot of commentary about how the police had been people had been throwing things from our side, such as water bottles and eggs.
Right.
And that was what prompted the police to be more aggressive towards our side. And to me, that just seems absolutely ridiculous. It's a water bottle, it's some eggs. But oddly enough, the eggs weren't thrown by people that were protesters. They were just, there was such a big area and so many people coming around that there were just random kids that had bought like a carton of eggs and were throwing it at the police because they thought it was funny. So I remember, being of a certain age and a mom, I'm like, no, this isn't helpful at all.
Right.
So I walked over and, took the eggs, threw them in the trash and said, go find something else to do. And they did. But, that just shows the lack of control that the police had on the entire situation. Had they said everyone needs to leave,
Right.
Everyone would have left and they could have secured the area.
Right.
On from that. But they were so focused on just, making the anti-Trump or white nationalist side, which was the side that I was protesting on. They were so interested in making that side leave that they couldn't see anything else. They weren't paying attention to anything else because they really didn't care. It was very true that it wasn't an issue of everyone's safety. It was an issue of let's get these people out of there because we don't like them and allow these people to do whatever they want. And they did.
Did you feel that it was biased from a personal bias where they were just falling towards the right? I know if you listen to some of the body cam footage, you do hear pushback from some of the beat cops to the command that day. One of the things that I noticed was you had multiple cops basically saying that the Trump protest site had been hijacked by Proud Boys, that they weren't cooperative. Another spot where you heard them say that there's a couple of them were drunk and being belligerent. So clearly not the polite cooperative group that Novak was making them out to be. And they were calling in command saying, hey, this is going on. What do you want us to do? And command just kept saying, let them march, which is crazy to me. So obviously not every group is monolithic, but did you notice any sort of discrepancy on the police line with some officers that weren't down with this, or did they seem to be unified?
When I remember when they talked about, the unlawful assembly, and I specifically asked an officer, well, are you going to make the other side leave too? And it was, yes, we're going to make both sides leave. And then that never happened. And at that point, when they started doing pushback, when they start, they'll say, move back, and then they move forward, and they, at that point, they're going to be fairly unified, even if they have doubts. I feel like it's trained in them to not show any, break in whatever for whatever reason. If it's their safety, their training, I don't think at any point that the officers were in any danger at all. They were in riot gear and people were throwing, maybe some people on our side were throwing eggs. That's not, it's obviously not polite, but it's not going to harm them.
Right.
So, but they were pepperballing us. They were hitting people, beating them. A friend of mine got hit as they fell down. So, if they did have any doubts, they were not showing it as a group.
Okay, yeah. So it was a very violent dispersal of your side of the protest. For sure, they were using less lethal ammunitions and batons and whatnot. And during that period of time, there was reports of a minor who had a BB gun and had been firing BBs at the counter protesters. I do know from pulling arrest records that this individual minor was arrested that day. But it's hard to get details, obviously, because it's a minor. Did you witness any of that?
I did not.
Okay. So hard to say what happened there, but I just know that was another incident that had occurred.
Right.
Is there any other things that you wanted to mention about anything that day that happened that I haven't asked you about?
No, I just think that it it's definitely a one-sided situation being portrayed by the district attorney's office. And I'm thankful that, outlets like yours and attorneys are trying really hard to push back against this, because this is a scary narrative for everyone.
I agree.
So
it's a dangerous precedent. Laws need to be applied universally. The minute there's bias in them, they cease to be laws. This becomes something else, and it's not justice. So yeah, this is to me is a clear-cut case of bias as well, because there's just too much ample evidence that the Trump side, had been involved in attacks that day as well. Like, this was a mutual fray. And it wasn't just that day. There's a pattern that has been set over the past few years. For example, 3 days earlier, you had obviously what happened at January 6th at the Capitol. We were there, obviously. That footage that my coworker John Farina shot in the tunnel was crazy. I was downtown Los Angeles 3 days earlier, and I know in the crowd of those Trump supporters, there were 2 individuals that were involved in a hate crime attack against Berlindo Nebo, in which one of them literally screamed, "This is the first scalping of the new civil war," after they ripped off this woman's weave. So, I mean, these were not, how do I put this succinctly? These were not people that weren't prone to hatred or violence. There's no way to other frame it than that. Their white nationalist tendencies are there. Damien Russell, who is one of the event organizers, I had documented his telegram earlier before this protest ever happened. And when I saw who it was, I'm like, I remember this guy's telegram. Let me go look at that. All kinds of pro-Hitler posts on it. American Coalition, fascist group. So definitely so anyone that wants to frame this as anything other than that's just not being honest. Anyway, so thanks for talking with us, Mandy. We'll be paying attention, obviously, to more of this case. All right, so now we're going to take a closer look at some of the white nationalist, white supremacist groups that were present that day at the protest in San Diego, and some of the individuals involved that are members of those groups that are actually named as victims and witnesses in the DA's case. I do want to mention something about the BB gun, because I did get more information on that after I conducted this interview. Apparently, the BB gun wasn't just a BB gun. It was a replica, like a perfect replica of a Glock. So if you looked at it, you would have thought it was a Glock, not just a BB gun. And my understanding from talking to 2 individuals is that this kid did fire the BB gun into the crowd. So not good. All right, let's first start with the American Guard. Some of the groups we are talking about, I'm going to bring up Curtis Briggs' motion to disqualify Summer Stephan, the DA. We'll read through part of that, and then we'll discuss these groups. So the first group that he talks about is the American Guard. This is not a well-known group. They started in the Midwest, and there is a chapter in Southern California that's been very present at Trump rallies. This is a page from the ADL discussing who the American Guard is. Obviously, the headline says it all: behind the American Guard, hardcore white supremacists. So dozens of people showed up at the Indiana State House in Indianapolis on March 25th, 2017 to support President Trump and his administration at a Make America Great Again, a MAGA rally. One of a number of such events held around the country that weekend. I want to scroll down and get into some of the individuals that started this real quickly. All right, so Brian James, if we scroll down, you'll see the man that started the Indiana Soldiers of Odin and who later converted it into the American Guard is Brian James. He is a longtime Indiana white supremacist who was one of the founders of the Vinlander Social Club, a hardcore racist skinhead gang that has a high association with violence. In fact, members or associates of VSC have been responsible for at least 9 murders, as well as many other crimes. Another VSC founder, Adrian Apodaca, was recently arrested in Florida on federal drug robbery and weapons charges, as well as charges related to an alleged murder for hire plot. Brian James can be seen below at a MAGA march and posing with other Vinlanders in March 2017. I also want to mention that Brian James was also briefly part of a chapter of the Proud Boys there. All right, so that's some background on this. So we know who this group is. Let's open up next part of the motion where they are discussed by the defendant's attorney. Pull this up, give it a second so people can read through this with me. So this is Curtis Briggs' motion to disqualify Summer Stephan. All right, so not only were the American Guard members not prosecuted, they are now named as victims in the prosecution against Antifa. Even more troubling, the district attorney's office has not only ignored the crimes by right-wing extremists, they have named numerous members of the American Guard as alleged victims in the case, without disclosing their affiliation with a violent hate group that views Antifa as their enemy. In other words, the defendants are charged with committing crimes against members of a group who have historically arrived at protests to incite violence, who committed coordinated attacks on their political opponents, and whose members committed numerous acts of violence at the protest underlying the charges. This is true. Part of what he's getting at here is that during the grand jury hearings, there was evidence that is very obvious from anybody standing from the outside, and you cannot tell me that Summer Stephan didn't see this evidence, that she chose not to present to the grand jury when she was getting her indictments. That's not unusual. Sometimes with grand jury indictments, a prosecutor will want to tailor that indictment to get into a court. But the problem is once you get to trial and now you have a defense team that can poke holes in that stuff and present counter evidence, that sort of falls apart. So I sort of think that's where we're at now. All right. So, for example, Stephan's office named MA. So all of these, let me point something out here. All of these individuals are named with their initials because initially Summer Stephan had got what they call a protective order sealing their names. Her concern was that if her names got into the public, they would be harassed by members of Antifa, doxxed by members of Antifa, which is kind of ridiculous. If you look at the video, lots of people already know who they are. So I'm actually going to go through and talk about that a little bit. So this is Markayla Almaday. She's MA. As one of the victims involving the defendants, Markayla described herself to the grand jury as a political consultant for campaigns who travels from state to state to work for different clients. Markayla claimed that she went to the January 9th, 2021 protest with a fellow rally goer because she expected it would be very calm. That is the biggest amount of nonsense I've ever heard. This is somebody that's been at a lot of Trump rallies, including the Million MAGA March in D.C. Markayla claimed that she further claimed she knew nothing about the protest from social media and did not know if there were any counter protesters there. That is absolutely not true either. According to Markayla, she knew only 2 people at the rally who she came with who were named as unidentified victims. In reality, Markayla is a member of the American Guard, yet this was not disclosed to the grand jury or the defense. Markayla has attended numerous protests with fellow American Guard members, Travis Greer, Nicholas Sassy, that's TJ and NS. The reason their initials there are they are named as victims in this DA's case, and Christopher Wyrick have committed organized violence against their political opponents. As far back as 2019, Markayla has been named in published photos showing her wearing her American Guard shirt. Okay, so there's a photo there. That was taken in, I believe, was Massachusetts. Or no, Portland, Maine, sorry. No sanctuary state. You can see she's got an American Guard shirt on. All right, so Travis Greer, Travis Greer arrived at the January 9th, 2021 protest with Markayla and is also named as a victim in this case. Travis is a member of the American Guard who took part in the attack on the man in the wheelchair on September 27th, 2020 in El Cajon. Stephan's office failed to disclose Travis's American Guard membership to the grand jury or the defense, and she, even though there's publicly available information showing about this. So this video where we have screenshots is on YouTube, and it's on several other various websites where they basically attacked this guy in a wheelchair, got him to the floor, and kind of just started punching him. In fact, I have this video. We can play a little bit of that now. Do you have that, Colin? Let's see. It's the El Cajon flight.
It would. I only have these numbered, so do you know? Was it?
Oh, all right. Well, let's get back to it later then. That's fine. We'll go in order because there's 2 in between. All right. So undersigned counsel is also informed and believes that the 2 unidentified victims who were with Markayla and Travis at the January 9th, 2021 protest are NS and RS. That's Nicholas Sassy and Randy Smith. They are also members of the American Guard. Yet their affiliation with this group was not disclosed to the defense or the grand jury. Randy Smith is depicted in the photos above. Nicholas Sassy was named as an attacker in the December 9th, 2017 attack in Otay Mesa. I actually interviewed the victim of that. His name is Will Johnson. I'm going to be playing that interview a little bit later on in the show today. So NS and RS, so Nicholas Sassy and Randy Smith, are depicted below, posing with fellow American Guard members. All right. So I want to pull up the next photo that I found. This was on Parler, in the Parler archive. Can we put up that next photo that I have? Only because I think it kind of clarifies for everybody what we're talking about here. So this particular photo there, thank you so much. I'm going to go through this 1 second, leave it up on the screen. So the individual in the red hat is Markayla Amadei. Standing next to her is Travis Greer. Over on the other side, doing the OK white supremacy sign is Chris Wyrick, and below him is his wife, Rebecca, also doing the same sign. So this was the banner photo in the head of the Florida chapter of the American Guard's Parler social media. So that should spell it out for you. I want to put up the next photo. This was a photo taken in La Mesa of the American Guard at the rally. The guy in the American Guard's SoCal shirt, his name is Bob Garland. He's not part of this case. So that's who these guys are. All right. So I spoke with one of the victims of that. This is Will Johnson. Nicholas Sassy, who's named as one of the victims in this Antifa case, was part of an attack against this guy that happened a couple years earlier in Otay Mesa. He wanted to press charges. The police department sent the district attorney's office a list of felonies that were prosecutable, and the DA declined to prosecute it. So let's play this interview with Will Johnson. Will Johnson, I wanted to talk with you because you kind of shine a light on how there's a history of right-wing extremism in San Diego by some of these groups, American Guard, Proud Boys, whatnot, and that their crimes are often ignored not only by the police, but also by the district attorney's office. In particular, I watched some video that was, I think, at the Otay Mesa border area. There was a protest and counter-protest about Trump's wall. And in the video, you are viciously assaulted by a couple of members of the American Guard. And it looks to me as if one of them is Chris Wyrick. Chris is a guy that has donated some campaign money to Summer Stephan, according to the recent Curtis Briggs motion to disqualify Summer. So can you walk us through that assault that day, whatnot, and then what happened after with the DA's office?
Okay. So I was part of a counter protest. The Minutemen, you may remember them from like kind of decades ago. Yeah, they were organizing a rally at right there at the border to look at the wall prototypes. You remember when Trump made those prototypes and was testing them? Yeah, I mean he's a game show president. He was making it into a game show. So the Minutemen organized this protest. They had a couple other politicians there. I'm forgetting the assembly member's name, but Congressman Duncan Hunter was one of the folks who attended. And he was charged and convicted a couple of years ago for campaign finance issues. Too. And this was also in the middle of it. So he was kind of, this was him in campaign mode working alongside the Minutemen.
Wow.
I actually, I called his office actually before the protest and said, hey, it's my understanding that there's going to be some pretty shady guys there, specifically Proud Boys and folks who are tied with neo-Nazi groups, essentially. And the next day, he confirmed that he was going to be there. Wow. So I don't know if that was.
And this was 2018, about.
This was 2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah. Now these folks who attacked me. This was actually not the first time I encountered them, because I was working for a congressional candidate that was in the 50th district. He was running against Duncan Hunter. He ended up dropping out before the primary, so he wasn't even on the ballot. But they we attended a couple rallies where we were protesting some of these guys. There was a man named he went by Johnny Benitez.
I'm very familiar with Johnny Benitez. He was at that time a Proud Boy. He is now a full-blown neo-Nazi that's associated with the Active Club movement. I have recent photos of him where he has Nazi tattoos. Like, so he's pretty hardcore at this point.
Yeah. Man, yeah. So this is the way that these guys kind of go.
Right.
But he was organizing a protest in Huntington Beach, I want to say, and Chris Wyrick was one of the organizers too, and he was just trying to get folks down for I believe it was a book burning. And it was going to be on the beach. So a lot of people came to counter protest him.
So hang on a second.
Sorry, it was in Laguna Beach. My mistake.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my next question. Was it Huntington Beach? So Johnny Benitez is also associated with a group called the Rise Above Movement, which was sort of a neo-Nazi white supremacist group. They participated in the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally where Heather Heyer was killed, Berkeley, and a whole host of other places. Their founder, Robert Rundo, is now currently in FBI custody because he had fled jurisdiction, went to Europe to try to get out of charges that he was facing for some of his actions at these protests. But he was found out and brought back a couple of months ago. So he's currently waiting trial. He's not out on bail. But Johnny Benitez was definitely associated with the Rise Above movement. I'm wondering now if Chris Wyrick was hanging out with those guys. Who knows? They do have members down in San Diego. So that's interesting that they were all there together.
Yeah, well, Chris Wyrick claimed to be one of the organizers of that Laguna Beach rally, so I don't have any other confirmation from anybody else, but he was saying that he was one of the organizers for that one. So the first time I had encountered them, it was at a rally in downtown San Diego called the Impeachment March, where we were protesting in support of impeaching President Trump. And a lot of these Proud Boys ended up showing up. They drove down from Los Angeles and were trying to cause a ruckus, essentially. I was just attending at the time. I wasn't part of the organizers. I wasn't on the security team, although I do occasionally do security for marches. But at the time, the Proud Boys were not well known. I had only seen like a few articles in Vice about them.
Yeah.
So I knew who they were when I saw them, and I realized that they were dangerous. And when they were trying to kind of infiltrate our rally, I ran over there and tried to essentially talk them out of it. It worked actually for a little bit. I was like, "Hey guys, I don't think it'll be very good for you guys to come in here." And they all stopped and were like, "Oh, why not?" And I said, "Oh, you guys don't necessarily match with this crowd." And I had my dog with me at the time too, and he said, "Hey, what if I just want to pet your dog?" And I was like, "That's fine, go for it." And so dude started petting my dog. I don't know who this guy was, but all these neo-Nazis and Proud Boys were like watching this dude pet my dog. And I was like, I don't know what to do. One of the security folks came over and told me to disengage. So that's essentially what I did. And I was trusting that they were going to take care of it. And then nothing happened. Everybody just went into the rally. So I 30 seconds later, I went over and talked to that security guy. I was like, "What happened? I thought you were taking care of it." It's like, "We were told to disengage too." So
interesting.
Yeah, so a lot of these guys like went to the front of the rally area and started to disrupt it. Specifically, Chris Wyrick and his son Nathan were among them, blasting their megaphone and doing the siren on it. And like eventually they left the front, but I was kind of there monitoring them. Some of them tried to take the stage with a banner. I like physically blocked them. I just kind of like got in their way.
Got in between. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So and because I was the one who was most active there, it seemed like that was the point when they like started to kind of
notice you more.
Yeah, well, they recognized me. Yeah. It wasn't until the Laguna Beach protest where some of those same people recognized me from some videos that my boss took at the time, and they blamed me for organizing against them at Laguna Beach. So after that, at our campaign events for my candidate, that's when Chris Wyrick and his friends started to crash it. Like, it was, they would come in, they would say like that my candidate wouldn't be going anywhere in the 50th district unless I was fired because I was a dangerous communist, whatever. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, I'm like a Bernie supporter. I consider myself like a democratic socialist.
Right.
But yeah, like, I mean, and yeah, he was saying that I was a violent Antifa
communist or something.
Yeah. And it was just so whacked out to me because
it is whacked out. That's what these guys do, right? They call everybody. I mean, they've now are referring to the FBI as Antifa. So there you go. I mean, it's just silliness.
That's funny. Yeah. But anyways, we ended up having to end the campaign because part of it was just because we couldn't guarantee people's safety at our events. We couldn't have fundraising events because these guys would show up. At the last one we did, they actually pushed a blind man to the ground. And trying to run after me while I was going out to the parking lot. So, not
good.
Yeah,
not good. So this accumulated, I guess, in the Otay Mesa incident is where. Okay, and walk us through that day.
So yeah, we showed up at near the rally location. We didn't really advertise this counter protest at all. It was just a bunch of, amongst a bunch of different like leftist activist groups, and we showed up in kind of spurts. I was one of the first folks to show up, and we were about probably 400 feet away from the rally at first. But then, and we only had maybe like 5 or 6 people at the start. But that's when one of the other American Guard guys, Ryan McAdams, started approaching us. And Nathan Wyrick was there too, and a couple other friends. And they were confronting me about one of the other volunteers that was on the campaign. At that point, like, I mean, they recognized me and were going after me, but I wasn't their main target to them. It was this other guy who ended up like going back and forth on the Facebook chat with them.
Okay.
So, yeah, it kind of devolved. It was just like kind of. Yeah, they were threatening to like go to each other's house and stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, it was
just escalating.
What?
It was just escalating. Then how did you end up getting attacked by these guys or assaulted by these guys?
So they were kind of coming after me for about 20 minutes in total. They were just getting in my face. I was trying to walk away. I wasn't engaging with them at all. Like I was not talking to them. The only time that I actually said something to them was when I noticed that Chris had some blood on his face. I was like, "Hey, you got some blood there." And I think it was just from like him like biting his lip or grinding his teeth or something.
Okay,
maybe.
interesting.
Yeah,
because you hadn't seen any assaults and fights with against him earlier in the day.
No, not at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was his son Nathan who was kind of the main instigator there, and I think it was because at the time he was 17, so he was just thinking that, oh, I'm protected by like my age.
Right.
If they punch back, it's assault on a minor, like that. I think that might have been what was going through their heads. But once like the fight actually started, that was when like fists started flying. But I mean, I'm trained to be a nonviolent activist. Like if we're doing if I'm at a protest and then I'm focused on the protest, and
right.
And yeah, if we get, with nonviolent protests, if you get assaulted by the police or by anybody, that's like part of.
Well, once you start assaulting people, you've crossed out of First Amendment protections.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, if a fight breaks out and it's a mutual fray between the two sides and people are just hitting each other, that's not necessarily something that the police department or the DA's office would look to prosecute, because if you're a willing participant in a mutual fray, then it is what it is. They'll call an unlawful assembly generally and have everybody leave. But if you're not instigating fights or fighting back and somebody attacks you, that is 100% an assault.
Yeah. After I was punched twice by Nathan. At the time, I was wearing a Guy Fawkes mask from the V for Vendetta movie, and the first punch, it actually broke the mask and made a little laceration on my face. And I mean, it hurt. But after the second one, Nathan was still like ready to fight. I had my hands up trying to protect myself, but then I put him down because I was showing I'm not fighting back. I'm not going to hit you. I'm nonviolent here. And after I put my hands down, he just went and focused on somebody else. So, the weirdest part of this entire thing was there was like a lot of law enforcement there. There was an entire lineup of sheriff's deputies that were watching this thing happen, and in fact, they let the sheriff's deputies let Chris Wyrick through their line as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he just walked on through.
He just walked right through.
Yeah, he was whistling while he was doing it.
You're kidding me.
Too.
Wow.
No. And he posted his not body worn kit, but he had like a GoPro on. He posted that video on his YouTube channel. And so for the entire world to see.
That's interesting because he used to have, I think it was called Based Crusader. Am I? Yeah, Based Crusader. That's right. I remember that.
And he had a little picture of the South Park character Butters.
That's right. And he also posted video of him pepper spraying somebody at Your Belinda, which he ended up getting arrested for.
Yeah. And so like. And there was a couple other videos of him being violent too, without any sort of repercussions. There was this one picture that, the video from a group called the United Patriot National Front. I think
that's a new name for me. Holy shit!
Around for a little bit.
Okay, are they based exclusively in San Diego?
No, they're mostly LA based. It was.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So he walked through the sheriff's line, and they just kind of let him do that. And then after the assault, they let them walk right back together. And you might have the video of that as well.
So Chris Wyrick was with who that day?
He was with his friend Ryan McAdams, who was also in American Guard, and. They had like several different group names. There was that United Patriot National Front, group that was that I mentioned before. The group that they started was called Bordertown Patriots, and there was a couple other incidents with them too. They tried to create an issue in Chicano Park here in San Diego as well, and the entire barrio came out to protest against them.
Wow.
That was a pretty weird and intense day as well, and a bunch of other neo-Nazis showed up for that one too.
So let me ask you this, Will. That day, so after this is happening, the sheriff's department sees these guys doing these things. They see the fights breaking out, and they do nothing to intervene or stop them.
They do nothing for about a minute and a half.
Wow.
And then they just start pushing everybody, like hey, break it up. And they just let them walk back. No arrests made whatsoever.
All right. So then how did you get the district attorney's office involved? If the police didn't arrest anybody, did you bring evidence to the sheriff's or the San Diego Police Department, or how did that work out?
Because it was like a weird jurisdictional thing. We had to go to the sheriff's department in Imperial Beach, and we made a police report. And the officer recommended. It's been a while. I think he recommended 11 felonies. I need to check that out. But none of them were charged.
So just so everybody's clear on this, the sheriff's department is in agreement with you that this guy committed some assaults, whatnot. The sheriff department sends the case to the district attorney's office and is recommending charges for 11 felonies. And the district attorney's office declines to charge anything.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's wow. Did the sheriff get any particular reason why from the DA's office? Did they mention? Because I'm curious to know.
No, we didn't get any reason or response whatsoever. Just that no charges were being pressed.
Let me ask you this, Will. Do you think when that happens, do you think that just emboldens these guys to go out and continue to be violent? Do they feel?
Absolutely.
They feel like they got away with something and that they're going to do it again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And they said it immediately after that fight too, because they recorded everything. And there was they were speaking to another live streamer immediately after, and they were like checking out their bloody lips. And one thing Chris Wyrick said is that he's pretty sure it'd be considered mutual combat. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that term.
Yeah, mutual fray is usually a DA term, but yeah, that's pretty much what he's trying to say is like, I didn't assault somebody, the other person, I invited them to the party, they joined the party, we were fighting each other, which it doesn't look that way to me either from the video. Yeah,
and but like his MO is just essentially trying to get people to take a swing at him. And he was doing that throughout his the time that day. I've seen it in multiple other videos where he did it with me too. In somebody's face, they like say, hey, get back, and then that's when he
takes a swing. Yeah, that happened pretty much at the. I was there covering the Mike Pence. He was speaking at a pro-Israel thing down in El Cajon, and I went down to cover that. Jewish Voice for Peace had a sort of counter-protest lined up. When the counter-protesters, they did speeches at a park and then marched to where the location of Mike Pence speaking was at. Chris Wyrick was there, and this is the first time. I didn't know who he was at the time, but he was there with a bunch of guys. Chad Alvarez was another one that was there who was present at Pacific Beach. He's the guy that threw the smoke grenade. But they were there waiting for the counter protesters. And right at the start of the video, you hear Chris go saying, come on, let's do it. Come on. Like he's 100% egging people, trying to get them to fight with him. So I that seems to be his MO. And the videos that he used to have on his Base Crusader YouTube make that pretty clear as well. So all of this video is readily available, open source to the public. The district attorney saw it. She saw the assault. So how does that make you feel personally? I mean, you're a victim and you didn't get any redress. Do you feel like now that this motion has come out where he gave her a small amount of money, but nonetheless, he did give her a donation in 2018. How does all of this make you feel?
Like, like I'm in danger, quite frankly, because if I mean these were clear assaults, and they're ready and willing to do it again and to other people too. So yeah, it's she's giving them a free pass DA Summer Steffa is giving them a free pass to assault people, and yeah, it makes me very, very unsettled. And
honestly, that's
I mean, it's a real conundrum, and it's hard for me to even like put together the words because like it's there's that meme from The Simpsons where Ralphie says like I'm in danger. And that's what's kind of like in my mind right now, quite frankly, but and making a joke of it. But yeah, I don't think that my rights to protest are protected at this point.
So that is Will Johnson, who was assaulted by Chris Wyrick and a few other American Guard members earlier. The DA chose not to prosecute them for whatever reasons. Colin, can we play part of that assault video I emailed you? Let me know if you can pull up that link. I'd like people to be able to see it. Colin, are you there?
Which one is that?
I just re-emailed it to you, if you want to check your email. In the meantime, while you're looking for that, can you pull up the Twitter post from Summer Stefan and Will Johnson? So right after this, I found this Twitter post from May 3rd of 2018. You recall last week we talked a little bit about Summer Stefan's campaign website, how it had this anti-Semitic photo of George Soros, and he was kind of behind a bunch of Antifa folks, and it was talking about how he was anti pro-crime, I guess you could say would be the better way to put it. So billionaire George Soros has launched a campaign against me, reserving a 6-figure television buy in SD, San Diego. We expect him to spend in excess of $1 million based on his efforts in other jurisdictions. Get the facts on Soros's campaign. Please share and retweet. I mean, this is literally a tweet that she had out. It's remarkable. And then Will Johnson responds, wow, catering to the ultra far right much? Why do you have anti-fascists behind Soros? Is it because you believe wacky InfoWars conspiracy theories? I mean, that's fair in my opinion. I have an idea, but how about instead of reading Gateway Pundit, you charge the white supremacists that attacked me on December 9th with assault? So that's Will Johnson right there. So Colin, as soon as you have that video, let me know and we'll play it. In the meantime, I've got some other videos I want to play lined up. All right. So Based Crusader was Chris Wyrick's YouTube website. I'm sure he's on some other sites as well, BitChute, whatnot. But he had this thing for filming him assaulting leftists, and he would put them up, bear macing folks, whatnot. So I wanted to play a couple of those as well so you get an idea. Chris Wyrick's relationship to all of this is he's from San Diego. He's a member of the American Guard. At one time, there was a photo of him on their front page when they had a website. And he's definitely part of this group in San Diego that is at all of these Trump rallies and whatnot. And he made a campaign contribution to Summer Stefan in 2018. So that's why he's mentioned in Curtis Briggs' motion. So Colin, let me know what you can play, the assault one, or we can move on and do the base pursuit. There we go. So you see they're surrounding him. Following him. That's Chris Wyrick with the flagpole.
Back off now! Swing, bro! Swing, bro! Every dog swing! 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 Don't fucking push me!
That's his kid. He's saying swing, swing, come on, punch me.
Get the fuck back! Get the fuck back!
And it just escalates. Okay. All right. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate that. I just wanted to play some of that from that day. So now let's move on to some of the videos that he had posted so you can get an idea of what this guy's about. This was the situation that happened in Yorba Linda. This was a Black Lives Matter protest that got very violent that day. So let's play this. Wyrick Macy.
One has a gun. I'll bear mace every one of these motherfuckers. Who's got a gun? Someone's got a gun? Someone's got a gun. No. I don't think so. Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Cannon hit it! Cannon hit it! Cannon hit it! What about Cannon hit it, you piece of shit? Cannon hit it! Cannon hit it! Cannon hit it! Cannon hit it! Go fucking home! Donald Trump! What the fuck is that gonna do, dog? Is that a Walmart or an eBay special? Hey, boss. Hey, boss. Hey. Hey. Who? You all right?
Okay, we have some trolls that are showing up in the chat, I see. So that was Chris Wyrick. He's obviously, he bear maced somebody at Yorba Linda. Wildly, somebody did have a gun that day. It was a Trump guy, though, not one of the anti-fascists. Sorry, it was one of your guys, Chris. But we'll table that for another time. The next video I want to play, this happened in El Cajon. I actually filmed this video. This is the first time I met Chris Wyrick or came across him. He actually, I was filming with my fixed lens camera and also my iPhone. He knocked my iPhone out of my hand partway through, but I think this also gives you a good idea of what these guys are about. In the crowd also, you will see James Kennard, who was one of the guys that initiated the alley attack in Pacific Beach against the two counter-protesters on January 9th. And you will also see Chad Alvarez, who is the individual that threw the military smoke grenade at the counter-protesters. So let's play this.
I know exactly who that is. Hey.
Line up. Keep it coming, motherfucker. Line up. Fuck you, old boy. You little bitch, old boy. Keep on coming. Keep on coming. Keep on coming. Keep it coming. Keep it coming, homie. Keep it coming, homie. Keep it coming. Whoa. Keep it coming, homie. Back up. Hey, I don't hide my face. Press. This is the people that put on this event, which they say white supremacy, but yet you have Mary Elders is a black American speaking. So how's that white supremacy? Yeah, tell me how it's white supremacy. You got a black man fucking speaking. How's that white supremacy? Make sure I get all your motherfucking You guys are getting fucking shot down by your narrative, homie. Don't touch him. Fucking get in my face, ho. Fucking touch him. Don't touch it. Fucking I'm gonna break you, dog. I'm gonna fucking break you, dog. Make a move, bitch. Make a move, bitch. I'm gonna break you, motherfucker. Hey, what's up, Casey? What's up, dog? Take pictures, motherfucker. I ain't tell you my name. Push back. Shut down by your narrative, homie. Don't touch him. Fucking get in my face, ho. Fucking touch him. Don't touch it. Fucking I'm gonna break you, dog. I'm gonna fucking break you, dog. We're fucking protecting the fucking
Make a move,
paintballs.
bitch.
I'm gonna break you, motherfucker. Hey, what's up, Casey? What's up, dog?
Move, motherfucker.
Take pictures, motherfucker. I'll even tell you my name. Fuck all y'all, motherfuckers.
Get back, Casey.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Hey, back. You want this? This is what you guys all came down here for.
You're here.
This is wrong with you motherfuckers. Know it.
Now I know.
That's my wife.
You guys better back up. That's all you got, bitch?
All right, so there was some cropping there. I wanted to mention at the beginning the text messages or the DM messages that I had up there was basically one of these guys that had communicated with the organizers of this pro-Israel Christian Zionist rally. This was a Christian church. It was Christians putting this on, not Jewish folks. Basically saying that they would provide security that day for this group. So that is why that was pertinent. I'm sorry it was cropped out. But you get the picture, right? So I want to play this video here. This is Nick Saucy, Travis Greer, and Wyrick attacking a man in a wheelchair. So let's play that, and then I'm going to show some photos of the attack.
White people are fucking awesome, man. Fucking awesome.
Goddamn.
Back off! Back off! Get him! Get him! Get him out of there! Get him out of there! Get him out of there!
Almost spilled my dip.
I mean, so you can see the guys in the American Guard shirts. They are stomping and hitting this guy who is in a wheelchair. Are you kidding me? Let's throw up a couple of these photos because they're clear. The video is a little bit fuzzy. It's from a live stream. So there's photo 1 and then photo 2. I think I have 2 photos total. Yeah. So you can see her clearly see that that's what's happening. All right, so that is your introduction to the American Guard and some of the individuals that are involved with that organization that were there at Pacific Beach on January 9th. I want to talk specifically now about the alley attack. We played this video last week. I'd like to replay it again so folks can see what it is that we were talking about. The participants in this particular attack were James Kennard, who is the American Guard, and 2 Proud Boys, Alberto Nunez and Dave Smith. It's pretty vicious, but let's go ahead and replay this so people can know what we're talking about.
Do it! Come there. That's out of the way. Fall back. Yeah, fuck Antifa! Get the fuck out of here! Yeah, come on, dude. Get the fuck out. Now go! Nose is broken. Fuck no, homie, what's up? Hey, America! You pissed yourself too, bitch! Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you too. I have to pee like this whole time. Fucking twat waffle.
Babe, peed your pants.
What's up?
Oh, shit.
Cut back! Out of the way!
Oh, fuck! Oh, fuck!
Fall back! Yeah, fuck Antifa! Get the fuck out of here! Yeah, come on, dude. Get the fuck out.
Hey, your nose is broken. Your nose is broken.
Fuck no, homie, what's up? Hey, America! You pissed yourself too, bitch!
Yeah, fuck you. No, I didn't. I didn't feel like this whole time.
Fucking twat waffle!
Weber's way. So Weber was a guy who was also incidentally at the Capitol. He's now deleted like most of his YouTube. I want to pull up now the segment of the motion to disqualify Summer Stephan where this alley attack is discussed. I want to read through a little bit of this. So one of the more violent attacks on January 9th, 2021 took place in an alleyway and was led by American Guard member James Kennard, aka online as Rusty Rod SoCal. This is the same James Kennard who engaged in unprovoked attacks with his fellow American Guard members against the man in the wheelchair on September 27, 2020, and the pro-Palestinian protesters on July 25th, 2021, as discussed above. Kennard and a group of American Guard members were seen on publicly available Facebook videos of the alleyway attack. The right-wing extremists are depicted following a nonviolent victim wearing a t-shirt that states "No justice, no peace, Black Lives Matter." The video shows Kennard and his group following the victim and his girlfriend down an alleyway. So this was the alleyway that was adjacent to where the main line of the protest was, and it was where a bunch of things had happened that day because you could access this alley from another street. So if you were on the Trump side, you could come down and through the alleyway and you'd be right there where the counter protesters were. The victim has his hands up signaling that he does not want to fight. Kennard can be heard saying, "Fuck you," and "You're no justice, no peace bullshit," and then spitting in the victim's face. Scrolling down, a female with a right-wing extremist wearing a red T-shirt then begins violently attacking the victim's girlfriend wearing a green sweatshirt. When the victim attempts to render aid to his girlfriend, the group of right-wing extremists surround the victim in a coordinated manner, which allows Kennard to sucker punch the victim, knocking him to the ground. Photographs obtained through investigation show unequivocally that the attack by the American Guard members amounted to a violent felony offense. I absolutely agree with that statement. In no way did either of these two even try to barely defend themselves. This was an absolutely horrific assault. So here we have the photos that are taken from this video. Kennard sucker punching the alleyway attack victim while he tries to protect his girlfriend. He had a bloody nose from this. American Guard members, including man with a frilled up flag and motorcycle helmet, continuing to assault the alleyway attack victim while he is defenseless on the ground. Kennard on the left is even walking away after sucker punching the victim. So the right-wing extremists can be heard saying "fall back," demonstrating that this was a coordinated attack. Although the victim was severely injured, there are no discovery items to suggest any of these perpetrators were investigated at any point. So not only were these individuals not prosecuted, they weren't even investigating, according to what we are reading here about the discovery process. All right, so let's move on to the BB gun kid. Now, we talked a little bit about this with some of the folks earlier. Nobody really saw much of what was going on that we were able to talk to. But I do want to talk about this part of the motion because there are things that are in discovery that the attorney is talking about that he's seen in discovery that we are necessarily not able to see because we're not part of that process. So let's pull up this part of the motion. All right, so yet another incident occurred. Let me wait for Colin to pull that up so we can read along. Colin, you there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it. 1 second.
Okay. Can we all give Colin a shout out today? This was a very complex show that we put together to do live the last 2 weeks. Lots of interviews, lots of documents and photos, and lots of videos. It's a lot of work. Colin, I appreciate you. I don't know. I could not do this on my own. So I just want to give you a shout out. If anybody wants to drop Colin a super chat, I think he deserves it. Colin's been quite a trooper through this. It's been a lot. All right. So he's looking for that. Let me just start to read through it, though, and hopefully he'll be able to find it. Yet another incident occurred with a right-wing extremist juvenile who came to the January 9th, 2021 Patriot March armed with a replica black Glock 17. So this was, at the time I realized that it's not just a BB gun, but it's actually a replica of a Glock. So if you see these replica BB guns, they look like real guns. So it would be easy to mistake one for a real gun. Officers saw him running with the gun in his waistband through the protest. This is true. I was able to pull the arrest records and the event log of the day, and that is true. As it turns out, he was being chased after shooting protesters with what had turned out to be a 1.77 caliber BB gun loaded with 15 BBs and a CO2 cartridge. The juvenile can be seen in a redacted photo taken on January 9th, 2021, standing with American Guard member James Kennard below. We also filmed him earlier in the day of the same protest where he was standing next to James Kennard by the pier. That is James in this black and white sort of plaid shirt you see there. Kennard is the same person who led the vicious attack in the alley of a peaceful protester and his girlfriend. It is not a coincidence that the juvenile is hanging out with Kennard because they are associated through familial connections and were at the protest together with the same agenda: terrorize and physically attack counter-protesters. So apparently there's some sort of familial connection between James Kennard and this individual's parents. In the photo above, Kennard has on a flannel. He is easily identified as the ringleader of the alley attack by his unique tattoos on his legs, his shorts, and boots. He shaved his head, his glasses, and his wedding band. The juvenile is posed up next to him with a Glock replica in his waistband, ready to shoot defendant Mora and others. Despite law enforcement receiving multiple reports that the juvenile was shooting Antifa counter-protesters with the gun, he was referred for juvenile prosecution for possession of the BB gun only and not assault with a deadly weapon. Given the severity of the charges faced by the defendants, this decision once again establishes that Stephan's office is ignoring crimes committed by the right-wing extremists. It should be also noted that Stephan's office chose not to present the juvenile to the grand jury to prevent the grand juries from questioning him about the shooting, which is concealing exculpatory evidence. All right, so I think that's a very telling part of the story as well. All right, next up is Chris Bynum. So Chris Bynum, this is kind of an interesting guy. He's now changed his YouTube channel, but he used to have a YouTube channel called California Citizens Watch. And this channel was about auditing police law enforcement, believe it or not. So he would go up and show up to things that were going on where cops were there, and he would film them and he would heckle them and do this sort of thing. He has now changed the name of his channel to End All Stalkers Now. I'm not sure what that's about. There's probably more to that story. But he deleted his live stream of Pacific Beach that day. But these files are in the Discovery files. I was not able to see them, obviously, because they're part of Discovery. One, his live stream was also part of an exhibit in the grand jury indictment. I did try to get it last week between the first show and this show. Was denied. They said that even though the grand jury indictment was no longer sealed, the exhibits were still sealed, and I would have to get permission from the judge, and he would have to sign off on me having a copy of the exhibit. Obviously, that was not going to happen before today, so we're going to rely on what we're hearing and seeing from other individuals. So I want to replay part of the police aerial footage that we talked about last week, because at the very end of this clip, you will hear a dispatcher call in and say that she had just received a 911 text about a guy with a switchblade. Let's play this.
100 Charles, this protest appears to be hijacked by the Proud Boys. They're not willing to go with the program, very anti-police, and we had that discussion with them.
100 Charles.
120 Lincoln, can you 10-9?
Whoever is near 100 Charles, I just need to make sure he is 10-4 on that last traffic from 560 Sam.
Okay, what was the last traffic from 560 Sam?
The group that he is monitoring with the Central Bike units, that protester group is being hijacked by the Proud Boys. They are very anti-police and they're refusing to comply. Concerned that the brother will harm the ex-boyfriend in the airport.
110 Lincoln is taking a squad down there.
Boyfriend is going to be a Steve, Hispanic male, 35, 6'3", 230 pounds.
Okay, police 3 traffic studs.
And Dave, well, just situational update for those guys. They're going to be between Hornblende and Grand in the east alley of Ocean Boulevard.
And a different neighbor, not the victim, are
They're just loitering in that area between Grand and Hornblende. Does look like they're kind of rallying up, so just kind of supporting what 516 Sam said.
Neighbor is a white male. Thank you, and blue jeans. Nobody's armed.
And 110 Lincoln, we've got another team, Morgan, plus the bike team up.
Just on officer safety too, we do have somebody texting in on 911 saying that they're watching a YouTube live stream. Subject out there is displaying a black switchblade in his right hand, appears to be a white male, 50 to 60s, balding, gray hair with a mustache, and it looks like the feet ended.
I will be 13195.
Okay, is anybody in contact with their organizer? Yeah, 560 Sam, myself and 69 Bike tried to make contact with the organizer. Protest has been hijacked by Proud Boys. They're no longer cooperating with police.
All right, so you hear this little bit about the 911 call. They describe Chris Bynum perfectly. That is exactly how he was dressed that day, and he did have a switchblade in his hand. So apparently, from what my understanding is, this was incident count 33 is what the charges are against. He is listed as the victim. And basically, he had been trying to provoke these guys all day, according to what Briggs is saying in an interview with KPBS, not with us. But he mentioned it also last week in our interview. He says he puts on a pair of Kevlar gloves, Briggs said, describing the live stream video. He says these are Kevlar gloves, and I'm going to break their teeth out. I'm going to knock Antifa's teeth out. And I did see another video that somebody had sent me where you absolutely do see that he has a switchblade out. So guy has a switchblade. He provokes a fight, but this is not a mutual fray. This is crazy. All right. I want to, since I couldn't play the Discovery video or the video that is that is in the case as the Grand Junction exhibit, I do want to play another video so we can see who this guy is and how he acts. This is an old video that had been up on his YouTube, and I think it looks like it could be par for the course for what he does. But before we do that, can you put up this screenshot Colin, please. This is the guy, Chris Bynum. Yeah, thank you so much. So this is from January 9th, that day in Pacific Beach. All right, so now let's play this little clip. So apparently my understanding from reading the description on this was this is some sort of argument with his neighbor that had been ongoing for some reasons I don't understand. But I just want to just give you a little bit of it just to see his personality.
In private.
Oh, no, you're still cocksucking. What? I don't put dick in my mouth. Unlike you fucking fags do.
Yes, you do.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Really? Prove it, motherfucker.
Yep.
Prove it.
Video of you in group.
Keep talking about group, motherfucker. Me and you, I don't give a fuck about your goddamn mace, pussy. You want to keep talking? You keep talking shit, motherfucker. That mace ain't gonna stop me. I'll punch that fucking snaggletooth out of your mouth.
Look at this guy, man.
Keep talking shit about kids and dogs and animals. Yeah, that's gonna go real well for you, punk.
Kids? Why do I talk to kids?
Hey, look what I found on the sidewalk. Oh shit, look at that.
That's the phone you
Should
destroyed.
have grabbed that when you had the chance.
Now it's
stolen
stolen.
property. I found it out here.
You throw it in there though, and we got it on video. And you got it on video.
Found it on the sidewalk.
We got it on video that you pick it up from this guy, you throw it there, and you pick it up again.
Yep, across the fence. He's on my property.
You-
He's got a 5-year restraining order. It says 0 contact, direct or indirect.
Yeah, well, go inside and stop crying.
Make me, motherfucker. Make me. See, that's all you do. You ain't shit. You ain't shit. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Yeah, well, come on, step up, motherfucker. I'm right here. Yeah, here, watch this. I'll put my fucking $500 smartwatch down so I don't lose it.
I'm gonna take it. I found that.
Yeah, like you tried to take my Benz last time too, cunt.
I tried to take your Benz. Why would I do that? I don't even have the keys, dumbass.
You dare! Give me the keys to stick his Benz!
Oh, is that why you beat her up?
I didn't beat anybody up.
Yeah, we all saw it.
Hey, you didn't see shit, motherfucker. Well, if I'm such a pussy, step up on me, motherfucker. Step up on me. Step up on me.
Stop spitting on me, you fucking pussy.
Yeah, you're the pussy.
All you do is walk up, get in people's faces, talk
And
all
all
kinds of
you do
shit,
is show up and
then
do
you-
that.
All right, enough of that. We get the point. So I guess that's some altercation with his neighbor. Next, I want to move on to Damian Russell. He was part of this group, New Patriot Wave, that was one of the organizers of the Stop the Steal rally that day. Damian Russell is pretty much a Nazi. I don't know how else you would describe this, and you'll see why I'm saying that in 1 second. First, I want to put up this photo of the day. The first photo, he's wearing a yellow shirt, and he's got this helmet on. That is Damian Russell there. He is prolific in the body cam footage of the day. Also, I want to mention, as I'm saying that, if you want to watch all of the body cam footage, I have uploaded it to the District 34 YouTube channel in full, unedited, so you can have at it if you'd like. All right, so there's a second photo of him I want to show. This is from Huntington Beach. So there was regular Trump rallies in Huntington Beach the entire time Trump was president, and for the, I'd say 2 years before when he announced his campaign. So that's him in Huntington Beach. Now I'm going to show you his Telegram so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's put up some of these. So the first one is this. He started this channel called American Coalition. His idea was he's going to create this third positionist, which is a form of Nazism. American Coalition Party, fascist party. It was going to be like a third party, but for fascists, more or less. That was his dream. So this is stuff, Silence Goy. You can see the American Coalition logo there. ADL, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, etc. When someone posts, it's okay to be white. The next one is the new American Coalition Party. Good Lord, I've been going for a long time today. I can't talk anymore. Those are what the principles are. Notice America First, autarky, third, positionism, populism, national conservatism. Note, we won't be able to register as an official party until 2022. Thankfully, that never even happened. Then the next one is obviously Hitler, Third Reich, the facts. He's got some Hitler love here. Moving on to the next group of socialism and capitalism. This is brilliant, but I like this. Third position, again, this is a reference to neo-Nazism, National Socialism. And this one, where he uses his actual name, a warrior citizenry is is necessary for America's survival. Every citizen, no matter how old or young, must be entirely capable of taking on the most gruesome and horrific of struggles without crumbling once. Damian Russell. So that is one of the organizers for this Stop the Steal rally that day. Next, I want to play a video of him in Huntington Beach. I had to bleep this video quite a bit in order to be able to play it because of his just sporadic use of the N-word. Let's go ahead and play that.
If he touches you, stop touching.
He said because that's what you got to get me too, brother. He said
bro.
He said because that's allowed.
I'm Hispanic.
In the, yeah.
That's fine. You can do that.
Why can't I?
All right, you get the point. Let's move on to Chad Alvarez. Now, Chad Alvarez, we've talked quite a bit about. He is the guy that walked in front of the police line and threw the military smoke grenade at the counter protesters. Let's replay really quickly part of that video so we can see exactly what we're referencing.
I'm sorry? Tell him to take off his cap. I think he's a Trump supporter.
All right, and now let's play the police body cam version of the same so we can see clearly that not only did that officer kick the can aside, but we have police body cam from several different angles of their body cams. Let's play that.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Back up.
If we could have voters come back up, our patrol officers at Mission and Hornblend.
Back up. Back up. Back up.
Just to that side of the intersection. Hey, well, from what we can see, you have a line of officers right now that's blocking Mission at Hornblend. They're slowly moving towards this route. Maybe we can get some more officers to make it over to Garnett. That would kind of box us crowded.
Mariota.
All right. So that is the police body cam from every angle. I wanted to answer Henry's question in the chat. White, half these guys, their cams don't have working sound. So this is a design of the Axon body cams. When a police officer first switches these body cams on, there's absolutely no audio recorded. I think it's for 30 seconds, but it could be longer. It seems like it could be longer from what we just saw. But yeah, that is a feature of these body cameras. When they're first turned on, there's no audio, and then the audio kicks on. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. I don't know. All right, so we've seen this from Eddie from multiple angles now. I wanted to talk about the fact that it turns out that this guy could also be a member of the Proud Boys. I want to put up these two photos. It could be that he's just wearing a Proud Boy shirt in these photos. This is the first that I'm seeing of this, of him and a Proud Boy, but these are from a couple years back. There's one, and then there's the second one. He's with the San Diego Proud Boys. I also want to play really quickly one more video. This video is actually from Chad Alvarez's Facebook. So this is him. This is his video, and he's talking about, I'm going to throw this shit. So let's go ahead and play this video real quick.
Fucking, it's on, dude. If you guys aren't down here, PB, we need everyone down here now. Pacific Beach. Everybody. They fucking Antifa's attacking senior citizens. They're fucking bear macing animals, dogs, fucking senior citizens. For USA! 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 Oh, so recap, Antifa, BLM beat the shit out of senior citizens. Fuck Antifa! 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 Watch your fucking heads, guys! They're throwing shit! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa!
All right, so the ultimate irony there is he actually says to the cops, watch your head, guys, they're throwing shit, after this guy throws a smoke grenade. It's kind of wild. Also, he keeps saying that Antifa beat the shit out of a senior citizen or attacked a citizen. That didn't happen. I'm positive that it didn't happen because the DA would have brought charges if that was the case. So I don't know what the source of that is. So that was Chad Alvarez's Facebook Live. So while this is going on, this was obtained through a FOIA request. I want to put this up on a screen. Chad Alvarez was the subject of a joint terrorism task force investigation. This is the BOLA that came out with that. Prior to about 1423 hours, the subject of an ongoing joint terrorism task force investigation was protesting on the pro-Trump side of this side, south of the San Diego Police Department mobile field force line. Chad Alvarez was armed with an unknown burning munition canister, likely military type smoke, CS or CN grenade, then ran along the east curb of the mobile field force line, threw the canister north into the group of black clad protesters and fled on foot. The canister can be seen via open source video footage, producing a burning agent as it was thrown. The canister is then kicked back towards the SDPD officers, who deflect the device towards the east curb line. So there you go. So Joint Terrorism Task Force, this is usually counterterrorism. It is a combination of Sheriff's Department and Federal Bureau of Investigation agents. So I have a feeling that that might have been related to a Peckerwood investigation, because he is friends on Facebook with a guy named Steve Moncrief, who is now in jail for some charges related to being affiliated of Peckerwood. They run guns, they deal drugs, et cetera, et cetera. I want to put up this T-shirt. This is from a news headline that had Chad Alvarez wearing a Support Your Local Peckerwood T-shirt online. County removes photo of man wearing white supremacist motorcycle gang T-shirt from website. So just to give you background on this guy, those of you who are in the chat asking, was this guy arrested? No, he was not arrested. No charges brought. All right. I want to turn now to two other individuals that I noticed that were in the crowd. They were part of an attack that happened in downtown Los Angeles 3 days earlier at the Sister Stop the Steal rally that happened there. Mercedes Diaz and an unknown individual who I've never been able to identify. They were part of a hate crime that was committed in downtown LA against Berlinda, where they attacked her. She got bear maced, she got hit, her weave was ripped off. So I want to show a video of or a photo of that attack. You will notice this guy on the very far right. He has a black mask up his face, black hat, and he's holding a flag, and he's got a Kevlar vest on. That on the right there, that is this unidentified guy. Mercedes Diaz is in that photo too. I'll show you a better shot of him. The next photo is him in the crowd at Pacific Beach on January 9th. You'll see he has a bullhorn there and he's marching. I want to play the incident now. This is the aftermath of the attack.
BLM, I'll smash your fucking weave off.
One likes minors.
I did that. I did that.
You guys are on the wrong side of the street, I think, man.
Yeah, I did the first scalping of the new civil.
You're on the wrong side of the street.
Nah, we're good.
Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa!
One more, Mercedes. We're not real Americans. Get down with that. Love it. Thank you.
He's the one who went and smacked me in the face. You're gonna watch him smack me in the face, right? You see that? Okay, he over there. Let's go.
Like I said, we're getting ambulance.
Because I'm not gonna get assaulted for no reason, right?
I understand.
I understand, but they're over there. Let's go get them.
But right now, I'm not gonna break all my squats to do that.
Understood.
We do have a captain who's in charge of this.
Where is he at? He's talking to. Okay, so he's the one who told you to come so we can identify him. And then that.
So listen, this is what I'm gonna do.
Look, she's pepper sprayed me. The girl right there.
Listen,
that's what was bad. Who pepper sprayed me?
So we're gonna start looking at that guy with 45.
And this girl right there. Okay.
Oh, there's a woman that I witnessed hit her too.
If we spot him right now, we're going to make a citizen's arrest. So I'm going to have someone get a citizen's arrest form. You're going to sign it. You'll be the arresting person. So we're going to get a citizen's arrest form.
Yeah.
And then we'll spot him and we'll detain him and we'll make the citizen's arrest for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, citizen's arrest, that still pisses me off to this day. That's what they do if they don't think there's probable cause, which is absurd. She was absolutely attacked by these individuals. Table that for another day, though. The girl that was holding the weave up in the air, her name is Mercedes Diaz. Let's scroll down to the next photo, put this up. And I did see video of this, so I can confirm that this screenshot is from video of Pacific Beach that day. This hateful monster is Mercedes De Leon of Riverside, California, and she helped attack Berlindo Nebo in downtown LA, walking around Pacific Beach this evening. The second video was shot by an independent journalist in downtown LA right after she pulled the hair extension off Berlinda's head. I saw her tell a young woman that she would put bullets in her brain. There are so many violent white supremacist Trump supporters roaming around Pacific Beach this evening. If you're in the area, stay safe. That is an Instagram post from the day. Again, I'm sharing these because I want people to truly understand the magnitude of individuals that were present that day in Pacific Beach. Now I want to talk about Tony Kravaric, who was the GOP chairman in San Diego for many, many years. He was able to channel almost $50K in donations into Summer Stephan's campaign. And he was embroiled in some trouble himself a few years ago. I want to put this up. So let's open this link for the KPBS news story on video resurfaces featuring images of Hitler and local GOP party chair Tony Kravarik. So, an old animated video has surfaced that shows Nazi salutes and symbols and a bobbing Hitler above the image of a young Tony Kravarik, who is now chairman of the San Diego County Republican Party. The early 1990s video features an image of Hitler flexing his right arm, brandished with a swastika band, floating up and down between photos of three young men. Among them is an image of youthful Kravarik sporting dark shades. It's pretty serious, said local rights lawyer Jim McElroy, a former member and chairman of the board of the Southern Poverty Law Center, a legal advocacy group specializing in civil rights abuses. There is a screenshot of the video. Actually, I think we can probably play it. Should we play it? Do we dare? I mean, I think we... All right, we'll play enough of it where you get the point, but you see a guy doing a Sig Heil, the Hitler guy is bouncing up and down, and then it scrolls over and there's going to be a kid who has an actual swastika tattoo on his neck. That's Tony Kravarik right there with the glasses on. I think the next one is the... Oh, there's a few videos there. So as that's playing, I'm going to read a little bit more of this article. The video was produced by a group called Fairlight that was founded during the late 1980s in Sweden at the dawn of the personal computer age. The group broke into video games, a practice called cracking, which at the time was legal in Sweden. The 49-year-old Kravarik had previously acknowledged that he was at one point the leader of the group. The video runs for 2 minutes and 32 seconds and includes a difficult-to-read scroll that in part says, now don't think that we are mega Nazis just because of the Hitler sprite, and goes on. But the bottom line is this video came out and Tony Kravarik didn't apologize for it. He didn't even return questions from multiple reporters on it. When he finally did acknowledge it to somebody, I guess, that he thought would be friendly to his case, he was like, yeah, it's an old video, whatever. I don't know. I don't think you whatever a Hitler video. I just don't. So he was the chair of the GOP party. I want to, before we end the show, I'm going to end the show with another interview with a San Diego activist, longtime BLM activist down there, Tasha Williamson. But I wanted to, before we had breaking news from her this morning, she has now filed a case alleging abuse of power from the San Diego Police Department. So I want to put this up before we play. There it is. Oh, thank you, Colin. You're so on it. Community activists calling for SDPD Chief Nislet's resignation over alleged abuse of power. At a news conference Monday morning, community activists were calling for the resignation of 3 top cops at the San Diego Police Department, including Chief David Nislet, for alleged corruption and abuse of power. Activist Tasha Williamson said San Diego's critical institution has been compromised. She is accusing Nislet and Assistant Chiefs Chris McGrath and Terrence Charlotte of dishonesty and abuse of power, and she has filed 2 complaints with the California Department of Justice Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training. We are calling for an external entity to initiate an investigation into corruption within the San Diego Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit. The allegations come on the heels of a discrimination complaint filed by Police Captain Alberto Leos last month. He alleges that the department's top brass altered reports concerning traffic collisions involving police officers. One of those collisions allegedly involved Ryan Nislet's the chief's son, who is also an SDPD officer. Leos claims he faced retaliation since pushing back on altering the crash report, while Nislet's son was promoted despite allegedly being at fault for the crash. Okay, so if they are messing with reports, that they should be taken down for corruption. So I wanted to point that out, that these are now 2 new cases that have been filed with the Department of Justice. We'll see where they go. The response from the police union down there was that Tasha has made all kinds of misallegations against the police department and that she has a history of doing so. Not a shocking response from the police union, but let's play our interview with Tasha. We're going to speak with Tasha Williamson, who is a longtime activist in the San Diego area. So she knows many of these DEC, Defend East County, American Guardsmen, Proud Boys well, because they've tangled with her. They've been at protests where they've harassed people, threatened you online, I believe, with some posts. So talk a little bit about the history of each one of these. In particular, I'd like to hear about the American Guard folks and the Defend East County folks.
Yeah, most definitely. All of those groups seem to be somewhat of a brotherhood and sisterhood. And so oftentimes they would come on our post or show up at protests. Some protests I organized, some protests I was invited to, and some protests I didn't attend but watched on live. Whenever they showed up, it was always to egg on violence, right? It was always an initiation of either words that would, cause racial slurs. They've often been heard using the N-word. They have assaulted people regularly and on video and on live video so that people can see it from all over. And nothing would happen to them. In essence, but they are a hate group. They were heavily monitored, as were all the groups that at that time that were being monitored. But it seemed and appeared that within their groups, they had law enforcement department that was allies. They had, we are being told that there is a hate group in San Diego that's being investigated. They're kind of being hush hush about it because they're saying that there are judges, district attorneys, law enforcement that are part of this hate group. And it's like a 2023 Klans group, almost, if you say.
Yeah, it's wild that here we are in 2023 and San Diego seems to be an exact replica, really. I should say at least the east side of San Diego, where Santee, El Cajon, La Mesa, that area is. I want to talk about Roger Ogden for a second. He's kind of this right-wing blogger down there in San Diego, but he's often posting sort of harassment videos. He does live streams. I don't know if he does anymore, but he did at one time. I know he had made this whole video about one of the January 9th Pacific Beach defendants, Jesse Cannon, that was pretty kind of crazy. But you've had some run-ins with Roger as well, right?
Correct. Roger Ogden posted a blog that was not true about me being the organizer of the La Mesa riot. And that was inaccurate. He made a lot of defamatory remarks and accusations that were inaccurate. I never organized the downtown La Mesa protest and never organized any protests that resulted in a demonstration of frustration and anger or burning buildings at any point. And he has shown up at protests that we had that were peaceful protests and began to engage with the crowd in a very negative way. He was arrested at one of our protests at La Mesa, and this was well after he made his comments. He showed up when we did a silent protest of an officer's home, and nothing, same thing, just monitoring, as he's saying, and that's fine. None of the protests that I have organized have been violent.
Right. So it's free speech for him, but not for anybody else, kind of a thing. I feel like American Guard members, Chris Wyrick.
If he wasn't if he was telling the truth. Once you stop telling the truth, it's no longer free speech.
I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying there. Chris Wyrick, who is an American Guard member, I've seen him commit multiple assaults on video. He was at when the American Guard Southern California website was still up. He was front and center there. Photo of him, and in fact, I believe it was in La Mesa that photo had come from, if I remember correctly. But he was part of a lot of violence even before Pacific Beach, January 9th, and never been prosecuted for any of this violence, like clear assaults on people. And I also know that he made campaign donations to Summer Stephan. I have verified that he indeed did back in 2018. What is going on with that situation, in your opinion?
I mean, I'm not shocked. The systemic injustices that are happening in plain sight. So to have someone who is a part of a hate group to be entangled politically with Summer Stephan where we know that they are disproportionately impacting Black, Brown, and Indigenous and Asian American community members from their own data, right? They know that they're doing it and refuse to stop doing it. It's not a shock to me. Again, as I told you, there's an investigation into, some group that has been formed that includes judges, attorneys, district attorneys, and law enforcement officers. And this is a hate group. We know that there are neo-Nazis and extremists that are embedded in these systems of injustice that work against the people in the communities that don't have everything that they need to be able to fight them back.
Right. No, that is definitely the case. There's a couple of others: Travis Greer, Markayla Almaday, Randy Smith, Nicholas Sassy. These are all American Guards members down there in San Diego. They were all present in Pacific Beach that particular day, but they've also been at many other protests prior to that committing violence, including the MAGA Million March in DC, Portland, Oregon. So they've been, going around doing things. How is it that, do you feel, I guess what I'm getting at is, do you feel that they get more emboldened every time they get away with committing violence and there's no repercussions for it? Because it seems to me that's the case. So they assault somebody or instigate a fight with somebody. The person can't protect themselves. That happens, then it happens again, then it happens again. And there's never any charges, even when victims want to press charges, right? So sometimes you'll see the police department say, well, we don't have an actual victim. They don't want to press charges. Okay, I understand that. But when you have somebody saying, I do want to press charges, this individual is, assaulted me. And in many cases, I think some of these could be considered hate crimes because they're racially motivated. Does that embolden them? So does it surprise you that what is happening in regards to this prosecution for January 9th is happening?
No, it doesn't. The district attorney's office and law enforcement have made it clear that they are politically opposed and personally opposed to anything that replicates or has allyship to the Black Lives Matter movement or any movement that they deem as being against them, right? And so nothing shocks us. Nothing appalls us. We knew that there were 5 people that had been at the January 6th.
Right. Actually, it's up to 7 now.
We knew that there had been a number of members that had been present at the January 6th Washington, D.C. riot and were not arrested, were allowed to walk around and assault people. There was, during the January 9th Imperial Beach incident, there were members on their side that had guns, knives. They were high-fiving law enforcement. Law enforcement was seen with a line of officers where a white man walks up to a woman that is kneeled down, chalking the concrete, and pushes her to the ground. And they pull him to the back of the police line and absolutely do nothing. We watched assault after assault after assault on people who were not fighting, people who were not egging on anything. We saw then officers begin to launch grenades and shoot those rubber bullets at even media. That they had media on and they were shooting at the media because they were standing on the side of the counter protesters. And so we know all that goes into protesting and that law enforcement is not there to protect us. Law enforcement has proven time and time again that their allyship is to the extremists, hate groups. We watched a man throw a grenade, launch a grenade, smoke bomb into a crowd of protesters. In another incident, he had a sheriff's bolo out for him here in San Diego County. And are you telling me you still can't find him? He used to work for the county.
Yes, that's right. He used to work for the county. That's right. There was a picture of him wearing a Peckerwood t-shirt that they had to remove.
So, I mean, come on. You can't tell me that you can only find people on one side. you know,
That's
and
right.
it's really upsetting to us. And but again, this is something that we've dealt with all our lives. The whole reason these protests erupted all over the nation is because we were tired.
Right.
We were tired of having knees on our necks. We were tired of being called the N-word. We were tired of being shot down dead with no weapons in our hands. We were tired.
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
someone who
it's
can't
completely
understand
understandable.
being
Yeah.
tired.
It's understandable, but what's not understandable is that the DA would choose to only prosecute members that you're right, deems BLM or Antifa. In fact, her expert witness that she brought in to the grand jury to testify referred to BLM as, wait for it, a nationalist group, which is nuts. I mean, what? How can she make that comment with a straight face? So she told the grand jury that BLM was a nationalist group. I'm like, no, it's a movement for civil rights. What are you talking about? But I mean, just all this kind of like sort of these things that she surrounds herself or sort of paints a really clear picture of where she's coming from. You know, and this isn't the first time she's gone after leftists. There was another BLM activist that she was trying to go for maximum penalties on, asked for like $1 million in bail. It got knocked down to $750,000. Even that's incredibly high for protest crimes. Yeah. He ended up walking away, though. The jury found him not guilty, but it wasn't for a lack of her trying. So there's a history there. What other?
The jury. I'm sorry. The jury watched a video. The jury watched a video and saw that the officer actually initiated the assault. That all the reports that the officers provided, the statements that the district attorney made, it was a lie. It was an absolute lie. That's how he got off. So he had to sit in jail. He was humiliated while he was in jail, and to come to find out that the public defender's office combs through all this video and finds the actual video of the initiation of the altercation. And it's the officer. And not only that, it's an officer who gets fired afterwards.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he goes to the scene of the person he murdered and makes a meme about it and the whole neighborhood that person is from.
Wow. Yeah.
And this officer had a lot of problems. That was clearly not the only one, but this was allowed. The sergeant who did his report a year later, he's now in internal affairs. So that tells you the DA's office is corrupt. The police department is corrupt. So who do we trust? Who do we trust?
Right. No, it's understandable.
This is Make America Great Again, which is really, make America white again. This is white supremacy at its finest. Yeah. It is embedded in each one of these systems, from the district attorney's office to the city attorney's office to the police departments. And so we know that. We live it every day. People are just starting to open their eyes to it.
Right.
We live this every day in every generation. Yeah. And those people that are up against, the system now, those are our allies. Those people stood toe to toe against white supremacists who would talk about lynching us on social media, who talked about raping us, who talked about our children, who talked about like just vile and violent things.
Right. No, you're right. I've seen some of those posts in Defendi's County. Their Facebook, which is now, let's be clear, their Facebook was shut down by Facebook because it was that vile. But some of the posts that you would see in that Defendi's County page were absolutely horrific, like shockingly so. Damian Russell, it would be another example that he doesn't get talked about a lot. He was one of the main organizers for the Pacific Beach Stop the Steal rally. His Telegram was chock full of Hitler apologia, like praising Hitler, full on Nazi stuff.
Yeah,
it's crazy. What other past?
It's not just crazy; it's horrifying.
It is horrifying.
It's horrifying.
I agree.
You know, these people have control of things that can harm people, right? These people, some of these people work in hospitals. Some of these people work in areas where they have to deal with people of color. And it's very shocking to us, because how are they dealing with these people of color? We're scared.
Exactly.
We're scared for them.
Exactly. No, absolutely. I feel like San Diego is just sort of kind of the east side there is just completely chock full of so many extremists. And it's not just the two we're talking about, right? We're focusing on American Guardsmen, et cetera, because those were the ones present that day. But there's also a group of Peckerwoods, which is a Aryan Brotherhood. This is a police prison gang that's very much neo-Nazi. These guys all have swastika tattoos. They're hardcore. And there's a few other groups. So they're all kind of sort of, out there living their life and not obviously being held accountable for what they're doing. On that note, are there other instances that you think are important that people know about these individuals, about things that they've done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what people can see, even from, doing public records requests, is that the only time or the only instances in which the district attorney's office and law enforcement are absolute and after going after them is when they can't hide it or cover it up. Yeah. When someone's been stabbed, when someone's been shot, when someone's been beaten and there are broken bones or significant injuries, you can't cover that up, right? Those are the times where we see this district attorney's office like dead on. We're going after him. We're going to make this extremely public. And oftentimes the victims, are left to fend for themselves.
Yeah, you know what I have noticed about Summer Stephan's office? She claims to be a big prosecutor of hate crime, which I find, I don't know why she thinks she can make that case. But if it's a very public case, like I'm thinking in particular of the Goyim TV guy who, Robert, who went to Poland and was putting up swastikas in front of the concentration camps there. He was arrested for that. But he had been previously arrested in San Diego and had escaped jurisdiction. So, and then they were like, oops, we lost the guy. But when that incident first happened, there was all of this fanfare and press releases from her office about how she was going after hate crime. And I just was like, I don't think that that's true, but okay. So I feel like she's very motivated by...
I find it funny. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like she's very motivated by what you're saying. Like if she thinks it's going to be very visual, very public, very bad for her politically, then she's going to act on it. I also think you mentioned something that I think is sticking with me that I think is correct too, is I do think that her world is so insular that she doesn't see the problem. I think she really does believe at the end of the day that Antifa is this big boogeyman, scary organization, and that these individuals, even though they were walking around with knives, the kid that had the Glock BB gun, I've seen now multiple knives. One of them had a switchblade. We had Ryan Luke that had the big knife that he was wielding. Like there's plenty of examples of how this was a mutual fray, and this wasn't one side is innocent and the other side's, these horrible groups. But I think she actually does believe this stuff. I think that the expert witness that she brought in with all the nonsense that she was saying, I think she believes that's accurate. I just think this is the inevitable outcome of Donald Trump, right? Of the MAGA movement. They all are very insular and they believe these things. And they're kind of like in a cult, for lack of a better way to put it. And I think many of the police are part of that problem.
I would absolutely agree. It does feel like very cultish and very clannish. So I absolutely agree. But I find it hard to believe that Summer believes what she's doing is she's accepted it, right? Because it's not hard for her to find gang members. It's not hard for her to find criminals who are Black, brown, and indigenous. It's not hard for her to find sex traffickers. It's not hard for her to find rapists. It's not hard for her, to find all these other typical types of criminals that her office fights against. But it is so difficult for her to feel like she has a viable case against white supremacists unless there is clear evidence, of violence. And I mean extreme violence.
Extreme, yeah, because even she's ignored. Yeah, exactly. Because
she's ignored that. She's ignored that violence.
Evidence in this case, yeah.
She's ignored that. She's
right. I was going to say
ignored it because you got back up and was able to walk away.
Right. Right. No, 100%. So she's selectively viewing so many of these.
You couldn't. Exactly. You did the same things that these extremists did January 9th. They could not do to a law enforcement officer. They could not do to a district attorney, a deputy district attorney. Couldn't do it to a city attorney. You couldn't do it to those folks. So you shouldn't be allowed to do it to other folks. And if you're going to take one group who did whatever and the other group did whatever, then what are you doing? Because this is the same.
I'd like to know, honestly. I'd like to know.
Type of courtroom, kangaroo courtroom.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen as far as not being just. She's clearly not aiming for justice here. She's ignored too many things that, look, if I'm seeing these things, she's perfectly aware of what I'm seeing and then some. So she has to be just whole hog ignoring things that are out there and obvious. Tasha, thank you so much for talking with us. Do you have any parting thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, I just want to tell people to keep the fight alive, because what we're fighting for is justice. We are not, everyone needs to be reminded from time to time that these systems have not reformed themselves. They have not transformed themselves. They have not changed. And we cannot continue year after year to the changes make us believe they're doing. They haven't changed. It shows us in their data. It shows us repeatedly. We've had reports come out that show they disproportionately impact one racial group over another racial group, or economic status group over another economic status group. And so it hasn't changed. And until they are serious about justice, the DA and the city attorney and the police department need to stop talking about being transparent, because they are not. Stop talking about being accountable, because they are not. And please, please stop talking about justice is blind, because you see all of us clearly. You just don't see them. You don't see extremists the same way you see us. You don't see police the same way you see regular community members. So justice is not blind.
Hold on a second. The truck outside. Of course, the interview ends right when the truck pulls up. That's very loud and noisy. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. I know this was a very long live stream. I tried to really focus on the main parts of this. There were actually other individuals that I want to include, but 3 hours is long enough. So if you haven't watched part one, please go back and watch part one. There's a lot of expose going on here. This is a really compelling story. I don't think San Diego is the only incidence where these sorts of things happen in the country, and it's something we definitely need to look at. Public trust is so important for these institutions to survive, whether it's our criminal justice system, whether it's the police department, and these things, where people are losing public trust for them because of the corruption that is involved. So on that note, Colin, I think we have some super chats. I want to get through those. All right, Chris Garrett. Thank you, Chris Garrett. OJ. Great marathon show today, Tina. Love the completeness of coverage. Kudos to Colin. Yes, thank you, Colin. For all the video clip coordination. Well done. Yes, well done. We appreciate that. I think is that the only super chat? I think that's the only one today.
Yes.
We're a little light on the super chats for a 3-hour show, but that's okay. I know people struggle. Appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in with us. Enjoy your Indigenous Peoples Day, your Thanksgiving Day with your family and friends. Appreciate you going on this journey with me. We won't be having a show on Fridays, so it's good that this one was extra long. It's 2 episodes in one. Thank you so much for your time.